Yoda's like, maybe we misinterpreted the prophecy. And it's like,
You think, Yoda?
Fucked it up, I did.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Vassals of Kingsgrave. Today we're going to be discussing Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And much later than our English counterparts because they suck. Sorry guys, love you. But we got the movie a week and a half ago now.
Yep. Yeah, and we had to see it twice to give it a proper reviewing, right,
yes,
guys?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We decided
3 times,
to
right?
take our time and savor it. And look at this very intelligently. But I'm Michal, I'm Ink as Rain on the forums, and this is my first time back on Vassals in like a million years, so yay, I'm back. With me is Amber.
Hello, Amber rocks on the forum.
And Zach.
Hi, I go by Alias on the forums.
And Scott.
Hi, I go by Shaggy Dog on the forums.
And Duncan.
Hi, I go by Valkyrist on the forums.
And Katie.
Lady Griffin on the forums.
And did I forget someone?
Yep.
Maybe.
Oops. Guys, I can't math, okay? And this is math for me. Now I'm literally scrolling through the damn... Adam. I'm sorry. Welcome.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm here in the back.
You're going to turn into Kylo Ren, aren't you?
I already.
No one appreciates me.
I gotta slash my console up real good. Take out that aggression.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But cool. So let's go around. Well, first of all, I wanted to decide on our squad name because I thought we needed one. Any ideas?
Vox Squadron. I'm so clever.
Vox Squadron. Okay. All right. We could go with that.
What do you mean,
nothing.
a squad name?
Like Black One or like Rogue Squadron.
Oh, so like a squad. Oh, like not like one of like the shady gangs or whatever that were in the movie.
Oh no.
Ganja Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one off of Ganja Club. Come on.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like a shitty 80s band, the Ganja Club.
The best part is if you look it up, they spell club with a K.
Of course they do.
It's space, man. Come on.
And it's different in oh my god, what's it called? I knew this.
Aftermath?
No. The letters.
The English language?
Oh, Arabesh?
Orbesh, yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Don't worry, I got you covered.
Great. All right. Well, we can think of it as we go along. Maybe something inspirational will strike us. But let's go around and say our lemon cakes for the movie. I think these should be like lightsaber lemon cakes. I'm just gonna say that they're like
Lightsaber shaped
like lightsabers.
Yeah.
So I would probably give it 4 to 4.5 lemon cakes. And I have seen the movie twice. I think that's important also to say, because apparently this is like a thing now. How many times have you seen the movie? Amber, how about you?
I would give it 58 out of 60 portions.
I gotta cut them down.
Nice.
Nice.
Minus 1 for Leia's lashes, and another for
just Leia.
the lack of Fasma. But let's see. We saw it Friday morning. Then those were our pre-sale tickets. Then we went back Friday night at 8, and then we saw it in the IMAX 4X 6 days later. So 3 times in the first week.
Nice.
Not
Zach.
to brag.
Okay, so I would give it 4 lightsaber lemon cakes and 3/4 quarter portions. That as well I'll go with. Just to preface kind of where I'm coming from with this, I am like a huge big time Star Wars fan. It's like one of my favorite things ever. So obviously I was very excited to go see this. I have also seen it 3 times. And I enjoyed it every single time. I thought it was a very good movie. I thought the first act of the movie was some of the best Star Wars I've ever seen, even counting some of the best stuff in the original trilogy. Yeah, I mean, there's some issues. There's obviously the issue of whether or not it was too much homage to the original trilogy, to A New Hope, to the degree of pandering, and if it was doing enough original stuff. But I loved the experience. I love all the new characters. I thought that all the dialogue was excellent, and it was just a great experience. And I'm really excited to see where they go next with one of my favorite things. So yeah.
Cool. Me too. And well, I guess actually, Katie, you come from like the opposite from Zach, right? In terms of Star Wars familiarity.
Yeah, I'm the most casual person here. Probably I haven't seen any of the movies in like 15 years. I haven't seen the original movie since I was a kid. It's not my thing. Star Wars is like at the bottom of my radar in terms of pop fiction that I'm interested in.
Except
so
when I like push it across your Tumblr.
Yeah, I indulge you. But yeah, so I went with my mom as her Christmas present because she really wanted to see it, and the only really thing that I had to compare it to was Jurassic World, which was the last movie I saw in theaters. That was probably the worst movie going experience I've ever had in my life. So I give this one 3 out of 5 inexplicable C-3PO red arms.
Who was that guy anyway?
I don't know. He looked like vaguely familiar, but
Anyway.
So Katie, was your mom, like, did she really want to see it just because of the hype, or was she a Star Wars fan?
A little of both. I think she's more into the franchise than I am or anyone else in my family. But yeah, I thought the first act was really, really enjoyable. And then I think the middle of this movie is where it got something just like right around the dead center, the threads started to come loose for me a little. And the only part that I was really like, oh my God, just go I could not take one more shot of Rey running through the jungle. I was like, okay, someone go find her. Let's get the plot back on track. The middle feels kind of like a mess, and there's some strange narrative choices that I wish had been more conventional, which is a weird thing to say, but in a movie that is this conventional, I think leaving things up to speculation in some parts was not a great idea. But yeah, I really dig this new lady main character. I like that she was kind of under the radar in terms of what her place was going to be. Like, in terms of the marketing and stuff, it was really underplayed that she is going to be the beating heart of this franchise, and that was a complete delight and wonderful surprise. And yeah, I genuinely, considering how little I care about this franchise, I felt really bad for Harrison Ford getting knocked off that catwalk into a giant pile of Disney money, but
oh yeah, by the way, spoilers in this
Oh yeah.
It's that big vault of money that Scrooge McDuck kept back in the day.
It was funny. I had like the in-moment experience of like, oh my God, they killed Han Solo, and then the meta experience of just, man, Harrison Ford must be so happy to get out of this franchise finally.
That's the only reason he signed on, I'm betting.
So they could kill him.
And also like the $18 million.
Because, well,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, I'm sure that was the pitch, was like, we're finally going to get rid of you. Because he spent the last, 30 years basically just hating anytime anyone asks him about Star Wars. And he never fails to bring up, like, oh yeah, I thought they should have just killed me off. I don't think my character was all that good.
Good for him. So yeah, it was fun. I don't know if I'll see it again. My brother wants me to go back with him, but I just keep thinking of Rey running in the jungle, and I'm like, I can't do that again.
Wow.
Well, okay, we'll go to the guy I forgot, Adam. Hi.
Okay. I don't know. I'll give it 3 lightsabers and a Yoda lightsaber out of like 4 or 5.
Baby
Maybe. I don't
lightsaber.
know. Yeah, he's got the little itty bitty, the baby lightsaber. Poor Yoda. He never got an adult one.
Size matters not.
Yeah, that's very true. He didn't even have his at the end. He was just like, screw it. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Seeing it a second time, like the problems are there, but pretty much anytime Leia was on the screen, just like, I don't know, didn't feel right to me. But yeah, it didn't suck. So it didn't like completely, butcher the franchise or anything, and that's a positive. So, and I just, I don't know, even though I kind of figured how everything was going to play out, especially since it's basically A New Hope all over again, like, there's not a lot of surprises, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of what I wanted.
And Duncan, what do you think?
I think I'll give it 4 lightsabers out of 5. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more the second time, which is unusual. I think it worked great
Me
as
too,
an action. Yeah, I think just as an action adventure, just on its own, it worked really well as being a continuation of the saga. The highlights for me were the 2 lead characters. I thought they had a great chemistry and there were compelling motivations. Generally, yeah, I just enjoyed spending time with them as they sort of bantered their way from one action set piece to the next. I thought the film had a great energy to it and a renewed sort of sturdiness and grittiness to the universe, which I thought were big improvements over the prequels. And the only real low light for me was how heavily it borrows its plot beats from the original movie. At times it feels more like a remake than something original in its own right. I understand why they had to do that, given the discontent over the prequels, and most of it I can give a pass on, but the whole Starkiller base I found really kind of lazy and poorly executed, but I guess we can argue about that.
We made it bigger.
Yeah, it's bigger. Well, there's a few...
This is how big the Death Star was. This is how big Starkiller Base is.
Yeah. There's a few problems I had with it.
Is it Starkiller Planet? Like, what was the name of the planet or the moon or whatever? Like, it had a name before, didn't it? Like,
oh, what was the original planet's name? I don't know.
That's what I mean. They're like, oh, Starkiller Base, and like, what? Like, if someone like did that to Earth, wouldn't you be like, look what they've done to Earth? You wouldn't be like, look what they've done to Nazi planet, you know?
Well, apparently they can just blow up planets and nobody misses them in this galaxy, so I guess it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, that's the big problem thus far is like not really explaining how everything's working or like who's on whose side, kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like they were too afraid of how there was too much politics in the prequels, that they were too afraid to delve into the political situation. That
they're like, we're going to show the Senate for 10 seconds as we destroy it.
Yeah, they steered too
I think that's
far
exactly
in the other
what
direction.
happened.
Yeah, like we didn't really understand the politics at all. It wasn't clear what the Republic was, what the Resistance was, what were they resisting if they belonged to the Republic? Like, aren't they just the official army of the Republic?
The weird thing is if you go and look at like the books that are out and all the you know, there's like all kinds, you know, just products and stuff, and they've got like little like a paragraph blurb that explains way more than what's in the movie.
Yeah, and it really makes sense after you read that stuff. So you wonder, of course, why this didn't make it into the movie. Like a couple throwaway lines of dialogue are in the crawl. Like that's one of my frustrations for sure.
I've heard people postulate that they like really wanted to get it to 2 hours and 15 minutes, and that like stuff was just cut for that. Which,
definitely.
Yeah.
It was better in the books.
Because the book was better.
The books were better.
Actually, there is a book, I think. Actually,
but it's not better. So be clear about that. The novelization is not better.
I think like one thing you can definitely say is that they had to cut a bunch of stuff out because just looking at like the products. That there's just like the toys and stuff. There's like, I don't know, like there's like whole play sets and things that are like that wasn't in the movie. You're like clearly that was like some big set piece and that was like a scene that had 10 minutes in it or something, and you just were like we've got to cut it down,
Yeah. Constable Zuvio, whoever that is.
Yeah, and they have like there's like a snow speeder or something with like Imperial troopers on it, and like I think when they arrive to blow up the station after they get Rey, that's like what they arrive on, but you don't see anything in between like the forest and there. You're like, where did they get that from?
Well,
Brienne escaping trash
like a missing battle scene.
Well, we could talk about that scene, but yeah. Cool. So let's see. I'm sorry, Scott. Guys, I'm sorry. I don't know names. Scott, did you come back?
She's been podcasting with other people.
Yeah, I have.
She's forgotten us. She's moved on.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually a much different scenario. But anyway, Scott, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'd give it probably 4 lightsabers and a BB-8.
Nice.
Pretty much
it's worth everything. So like,
how much is that? Like,
difficult.
how does that weigh?
BB-8's like 40 lightsabers.
Yeah.
BB-8's like the most likable character almost in the entire thing.
He's so good.
Actually, he's 60 portions. That's how much he's worth.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty decent. I've seen it twice. When I walked out of it the first time, I was happy, and I was like, wait a minute, am I happy just because it didn't suck like the prequel trilogies? Or am I happy because it was actually not bad? So I had to go see it again. And no, it was actually just not bad. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I really wish they had done more with. And some of the stuff did seem, really repetitive, or it was just kind of generic, like they threw in, like Emperor Snoke or High Commander Snoke, or whatever the hell his name is.
Supreme Leader.
Yep.
Very different.
Okay, he's the Supreme Leader now. All right.
Absolutely not Zafira.
Yeah, I don't know. He just seemed kind of like almost a recycled, modern day movie villain. That seems just kind of the common standard. Here's what we're going to issue out as a bad guy now. Like, if Smeagol and, Voldemort had a love child, bam, you get Supreme Leader Snoke. And it was just like, guys, a little imagination here to not make him look like something I've already seen. I mean, it is Star Wars. That was kind of one of the things, I expected. But even with all that, it was still enjoyable. So, yeah.
And looking at him, don't you kind of feel like there's maybe like a really interesting backstory there? Like the dude's got like a giant hole in his head and half of his face is missing, but instead they just decided to make him like a holographic image that's like 80 feet tall for some reason.
Dude, when you guys first saw the movie, did you think he was that big? I definitely thought he was like a huge guy.
In the first scene, I'm like, oh, this guy's in hiding because he can't travel anywhere. Like, no shit, people carry him.
He's like an evil Lincoln Memorial.
It's like an evil giant.
I was trying to picture the scenario where you like fight him and he's just like stepping on you and crushing you with his giant lightsaber. Like, how do you beat this guy?
You need to fly around him in an X-wing and like with a cable.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool, actually. Yeah, like a giant just jumping between planets, like Andros in Star Fox.
I hope in the third movie, if we actually get to see him, he's like shorter than Yoda. That'll be great.
Yeah,
they just pick him up with their 2 fingers and squish him.
Yeah, I hear he's supposed to be like 7 feet. I don't understand really the rationale for having that enormous.
Well, I think it's
hologram.
an echo to Palpatine in Empire Strikes Back. He was like a huge head.
He's disembodied, right? Like,
right. So it's clear he's like a hologram. I don't know. It's just like a visual.
We're not even sure he's a hologram at first. Like I thought he was actually there, and then it was like, oh, you're gone. Okay.
What if he doesn't even exist? Like he's just a program, like a computer program that was made by the Emperor and just creates a hologram and it has a certain set of responses?
Well, that's like sort of a thing that's in the comics. In Shattered Empire, like the Emperor sends like these weird creatures around with like his orders and like playing videos of him. So I guess theoretically that could be a thing. But most people seem to think he's Plagueis, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard the most.
So is that the guy that
the question is with
Palpatine?
Yeah. And Palpatine supposedly killed him, but
maybe he lived.
Who knows?
I wonder though, like, would they do that? Because he's a creation of the prequels, which they've been very uncomfortable with, like touching at all. It seems with this new set of movies. Like, are they going to even reference anything in those? I don't know.
Well, supposedly Phasma's armor was made out of like the Naboo cruiser. I don't know how I know this stuff.
I guess they have to acknowledge that Naboo exists.
What? That's like even more bizarre now.
Oh, you know what? One thing I do want to know. Does anybody know who the hell the old guy was that handed over the map at the beginning of the
character. Movie? What's his name?
Yeah.
Mikal?
Lor Santeca.
You're right. And he's apparently the leader of the Church of the Force. That's his thing. And he's not Force sensitive himself, but he knows. He knows. It looks like he knows Luke and Han and Leia.
The
and like
Church
something.
of the what?
So he's like, he's like a religious follower of the Force.
Oh.
Where did you get that from?
I can't remember.
I think that was in the visual dictionary or something.
Yeah, something like that.
At this point, you can now just Google it. And
yeah, because like when I first saw that, I was like, oh wow, that must be a guy from the first trilogy. Who the hell is it? And I sat there like for a minute going, who the hell is that asshole?
Yeah.
Who the hell is this guy? You're supposed to be someone important.
You have to.
I'm already behind.
You have to assume that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's like, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah, obviously.
I thought it might be Kanan, but it's not.
Well, again, it clings so closely to the original that it is almost this Obi-Wan kind of surrogate that has to die, so the message gets out. Yeah.
Except it seems like he did nothing to take care of Rey or even knew that she existed.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so that's
you wonder
one of the
what
weird
his
things.
connection might be.
Right. Like I've been talking with a lot of people about Rey, and one of the things that's come up is like, how could she have been left there? Like just like dumped on this planet, a child by herself, and like if and also like how she knows like how to do like the Force talk thing, the Force persuasion, and if she grew up with at least knowing about these people, like this Church of the Force, that could explain some of it. Like at least there would be people around to be like somewhat supportive of her, and B, like she might have heard about Force stuff.
The only input I have really is, sorry, would you cut out that I preface everything I say by saying this is going to be stupid? Whoever edits this, I'm sorry.
Now that's going to be the first thing they hear when they start the podcast.
The bumper. This will be stupid.
The very first thing, like before the music, before anything else.
This is gonna
I
be
don't know what I'm
stupid.
talking about. But I did notice on the third viewing that when she goes back to her little home in the foot and makes her little biscuit, that on the table there's a little handmade doll of like a rebel pilot.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Which I was
And she
proud of.
clearly like knows the stories.
Also,
Right.
we know that Jakku is a junkyard for like a battle that happened, and we see all like the X-wings and the Star Destroyers and stuff. So she knows. I guess maybe she's heard stories about it, but there's like that input there where she could have like figured out what a rebel pilot looks like. She has the helmet and everything. So
She's seen corpses, so.
yeah, she's seen their dead jumpsuits.
I mean, where do you think she got that material from?
Yeah, I looked on Wikipedia, and apparently Jakku was the last battle between the Empire and the New Republic before the Empire was destroyed. Like, that was the last fighting going on, and the Empire lost because they crashed their last Star Destroyer, and then that's where they signed the peace treaty, and they decided this is where the Empire stays, this is where the New Republic stays.
Yeah, it was just like a huge battle, and then afterwards they were like, we're done. And then since then the Republic's been kind of like, well, there's peace in the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
As far as the like her knowing about like how to use the Force and stuff like that, I just assume the easy explanation is that like you guys say, she's heard stories about it. She's heard rumors about the kinds of things that Jedi can do. But there is the theory that somehow, and we can I guess we can get into this more later, that somehow like she was trained to some extent, maybe with Luke, maybe not, and her mind was wiped after something happened, and it's like latent memories like coming back or something.
Yeah. Well, she sort of has that flashback in that temple where she sees Kylo Ren and his his knights attacking people and slaughtering people. So there's like a theory that she was being trained by the that new order of Jedi, and she was like one of the survivors, and she was put on Jakku for her safety, which could explain
Makes
why she has
sense.
that touch with the Force, and she has some sort of suppressed memories of it.
The problem with that is it doesn't make sense time-wise, because we see her in that same set of visions as like a very young girl when she's put on Jakku, and like Kylo Ren must have done his like betrayal thing like way later if they're relatively similar in age. Maybe they're not. But...
No,
They're not. They're about 10 years different.
Oh, okay.
So if he was 15 and she was 5 then that
Okay, that makes sense then.
My impression when I watched it was like you had all of that kind of, it was like disjointed but also connected. So like she sees that vision, she sees him, and then she's being left at the planet, and we don't see who leaves her at the planet. We see like the junk dealer, I think, like taking her away, and we see like a shuttle leaving. So we have no idea who it was. But I think maybe like when like Kylo Ren's talking about his light side's creeping up again, maybe it's like maybe that was just someone who was young and he couldn't bring himself to kill them, or maybe like it is like Luke's daughter, or they're related somehow, and that was like his last good deed was to just like abandon her on a planet but not kill her, sort of thing.
That disappoints me.
Yeah, that's the real great deed. Oh, here, it's a desert, desolate, barren wasteland, just like I grew up on. Enjoy, child.
I know this is Star Wars and like everyone's related in some way or another, and obviously since she's more or less the main character, she's going to have some storied history and her genetic destiny. But when I was watching it the first time, I didn't really grok onto any of that, and just in my mind it was like she's just a random person who was deluding herself, that like her family had basically sold her into servitude on this planet, and she had been deceiving herself that there was anyone who still that they were coming back, and that she was just this random person who happened to have this gift that she didn't know about, that she kind of pieced together in her head. But yeah, since this is Star Wars, she's probably Luke's daughter, or
well, and there are a lot of hints, like, I mean, because like if it's Luke's daughter, like, and people are like, he dropped her off there to go peace out and hang out in Ireland, like, that's kind of shitty. So that doesn't make sense to me why he wouldn't come back. But if it's Kylo, like, you see, like, immediately, like, when they're on the planet and they talk about a girl and all this stuff, it seems like very significant to him and no one else.
He like grabs the guy when the officer says that there was a girl, like he grabs him. Like, why does that make sense unless there was some kind of...
Yeah, like Han, no one else seemed to be triggered by her except for the lady with the glasses, and then Kylo, who like immediately, like he's like, I don't know, like he kidnaps her specifically instead of getting the droid, like all this stuff.
How old is he supposed to be relative to her?
He's like almost 30. She's like, late teens.
It's interesting. I didn't really take the idea that Kylo might have dropped her off on the planet seriously, although I kind of like that now. But I also don't actually have a problem with her being Luke's daughter and him leaving her there, in terms of, like, I think if such a thing happened. I mean, first of all, maybe I've just been, like, inured to, like, the idea of, like, beloved characters becoming bad parents from, like, The Legend of Korra. Like, been there, done that, whatever. But, like, I would assume that it would be the type of thing where, like, Luke's entire, like, student body was slaughtered. Luke is being hunted by the First Order, and he's like, it's actually dangerous for me to be around you and for you to know who you are. That makes sense to me in that, like... But
the problem is she's left alone. Like, we see the junk dealer taking her away, but, like, we know that guy's not gonna... Like, if Luke had the Force in any sense, or if he knew him at all, he would know not to leave her with him. So why wasn't she left with, like, that villager that, like, Kylo seems to know? Or, something like that, then I would totally buy it.
Right,
yeah,
but
like,
that
her
was a
being...
mistake. Like,
yeah, her being left behind is not a problem. Her being left behind into servitude in a wasteland is unforgivable.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't imagine that was like the plan.
Let's bear in mind the Jedi are assholes. They do a lot of shitty stuff, so it's possible. I mean, maybe Luke's not as bad as the other Jedi, but like even Obi-Wan was like pulling shit over Luke constantly and manipulating him. So
Luke doesn't know all the old histories, all the all like the pranks and the horrible things that they do. Like he like all that's been destroyed, so he's just like, I have the Force, and so whatever he would do is just sort of, he's making it up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he would be, because at least he was left with his aunt and uncle. Like, I don't know.
It's sort of, I see it as like Harry being left with the Dursleys. Like, I don't know if, like, I mean,
for her protection.
Exactly, and like he doesn't, I guess Dumbledore and Hagrid don't realize that the Dursleys are massive assholes, But Harry does kind of grow up as like sort of an abused slave.
And they don't really check in on him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Negligence.
Way to go, Dumbledore.
But yeah, so does anyone like have a favorite character who isn't Rey? I mean, she's my favorite character.
Han Solo.
I've been expecting you.
I'm all about this dreamy X-wing pilot that isn't in the movie enough.
Yeah, this is the problem though. Like, all the new characters are so great that like
I know.
It's and this is something that like there are definitely like criticisms to make the movie, and I'll make my own soon. But like what it to me the hardest thing it had to do was introduce us to these characters and make us like fall head over heels in love with them, and it did that absolutely pretty much across the board. Even Fasma, I'm like, all right, I know, like I don't know you, but I kind of still love you. Maybe that's just me, but I think like so it's hard for me to say in any sense that the movie like isn't successful. I mean, obviously it's successful. It's making like all the money in the world ever. I feel like every person in the world is going to end up like at least having $1 go through like the process of this movie, the presses. But
like even if you pirate, you're going to donate some money, just cause.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll end up doing something, riding a bus that's paying Disney or something.
Yeah, that small little company Disney deserved a little love eventually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I am really glad that they beat stupid Jurassic World.
Yeah, I think we can all take solace in
that. Dinosaurs. Yeah, no, I just can't wait for them to beat Avatar, and then I'll be happy.
Yeah, I was actually I was most impressed by how well they sold BB-8 as a new character. It always felt like with the marketing, like it seemed like they were selling him too hard. Like, he's the new droid, he's so fun and cool, and he rolls around and stuff. But he actually had like a ton of personality, and there were a lot of really good moments with him, and I loved him. So I was very impressed with how well they did with that character.
And he was real somehow, like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, the
Crazy.
company who made him is in Boulder here, so that's a
Cool.
little tip.
Huh.
Did y'all
Go
see
get us
that
one.
tweet Neil
You
deGrasse
can get one
Tyson
yourself.
put out about BB-8?
No.
No, what did he
Yeah.
say?
No, he just said that, like, in real life, that a ball droid would spin out uncontrollably on sand and that it was an unrealistic.
Oh.
Properly weighted or something.
And I'm sure he has a braking system in there.
Yeah,
Totally.
magic.
This
My
movie about
favorite-
Space Wizards is flawed.
It's not, it doesn't make any sense.
The science just doesn't work.
My favorite unintentionally funny part with BB-8 was the very tense scene with Rey going down the stairs to confront the sound she's hearing, and BB-8's just plonking.
Plonk.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd like to see R2 do better on stairs.
Nah, he would just use his jet engines, of course.
I was so
Not
endeared
canon.
to that android that I felt hostile when R2-D2 showed back up. Like, I don't want you here. You're clunky and old.
Oh.
But BB-8 loved him.
Isn't it confirmed that R2-D2 is kind of a sadistic asshole? Like, isn't that the primary theory? Because C-3PO had his mind wiped, but R2-D2 didn't, so he's kind of in on...
Yeah, he knows everything.
He knows everything, but he doesn't share. I don't know, I
Yeah.
don't trust him.
Maybe he's got like the droid version of PTSD from all the trauma he's suffered. That's why he was in low power mode.
So, I mean, does anyone wanna have a moment of celebration for their particular favorite character?
It's hard to pick.
Finn!
Yeah, yeah, I was
Amber,
gonna say,
tell us about Finn.
everybody loves Ray.
We haven't talked about him yet, so we
Oh
probably
my
do.
god. He's so... What you were talking about, the characters being successful because they're so likable. I mean, you can't help but fall in love with him before he even takes the stupid helmet off. Like, he's just so good and his skin is so perfect. And and everything he does, even when he says he doesn't want to do the right thing, he always does the right thing. And it's corny, but it's so darling. And he has what I thought were most of the funniest lines, which is
Definitely.
always
Yeah.
the way to get to me. When he's punking Fasma because he's in charge now, and you got a boyfriend? You got a cute boyfriend?
Yeah.
He's just the best. He's so cute.
I'm with the resistance. I'm with the resistance.
This is
What
this
we
is
look
what we look like.
Some of us.
But I
Others
found
look
his
different.
I had a hard time figuring out his backstory because it's mostly told to us. I mean, we do get the sense that, he just has this turn of character because he can't hack the first battle, but they're not clones anymore, right? The
No.
Imperial soldiers. So we're like,
They're like lost boys.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
unsullied.
They're like people. They're people who are being raised like clones.
yeah, I felt I don't know. I felt like that was kind of like I had to make a logical leap to piece together where he was coming from, even though I think, we're shown a good deal of it.
Because really, what did he think was going to happen? I mean, even if this is his first, raiding party or whatever you call it, I mean, obviously he's been trained to be a killer his whole life. So it's,
Yeah, I wonder what the indoctrination process is like, and how he was able to not fall for it. Like, you wonder is that proof that he's force sensitive too, and that there's something
Yeah.
more to him?
I don't know.
do
I
feel
don't.
like there has to be more.
I hope not. I hope the force sensitive thing kind of gets toned down a little bit. I mean, I don't think Han Solo was force sensitive, and he was stuffing Luke into Tauntaun and The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think
So I mean, I don't
Because he can turn
like the
lightsaber
idea that
on.
everyone has to be able to flick on a lightsaber. It should be like flicking on a light switch.
No, yeah, I agree with
Right
that
place,
completely.
right time.
Yeah.
I don't know, he doesn't strike me. Going slightly back is he doesn't strike me as someone who's been raised from childhood to be a soldier. He reminds me of someone who's been kidnapped 2 weeks before, like Patty Hearst style, given a gun and saying go shoot, and then just can't do it. I don't know. I enjoyed him on screen. I felt like his character was weaker than some of the others.
Yeah, and you wonder what they're going to do with him next too. Like he is a very fun character to be around, but he is mostly comic relief for the latter half of the movie. That's mostly what his purpose is. So you wonder. I think there will be a lot more to him than we know, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. And I do just love the idea that a stormtrooper is a main character, because I like stormtroopers.
Poe needs a co-pilot, yo.
Poe needs a co-pilot, yeah.
They're so going to be working together in the next movie. I'm convinced. As
Is
long
that
as
what we call it?
yeah. Well, whatever you'd like to call it. It's so funny. I saw it the first time and I was in such a daze. I mean, my sister and I bought Bunch of Crunch to share, and it stayed on the armrest between us completely untouched the entire movie. But I think I was like, oh, I wonder if people are going to ship this. And then, like, the second time I saw it, I had been, hearing all of the Poe Finn storm pilot stuff. And, like, when Poe runs up to him and, like, gives him a hug and is like, you're wearing my jacket, I was like, oh, my God, Poe. Like, tone it down, bro. Like, coming out a little strong there.
Make him work for it.
Exactly. But I guess we could talk about Poe then. I mean, poor almost dead Poe. Poor beautiful Poe.
I feel like we're missing a scene where he escapes from Jakku.
Yeah, it felt weird that he disappeared and then came back. But I don't know. It's not his movie. And you wonder, like, what is his... If he's going to be one of the three main characters, like, he just wasn't that in this movie. He was cool and everything, but he just wasn't, like, that important. I felt like his purpose mainly was to blow the base up, to have somebody to do that. So you wonder, like, what is his next step?
Am I the only one here who thought Poe kind of looks like the guy from Army of Darkness and the Evil Dead? When they first saw him on screen, I was like, oh, okay, the guy looks like Ash. And then he started being a wise ass, and I was like, oh god, they put Ash in this movie.
He's got the chin and the hair.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my boom ship.
Next one of you stormtroopers who touches me.
I don't know who that is or what you're referring to, but sure.
Bruce Campbell. Yeah.
Cool.
Just on the stormtroopers, I liked how they made them a bit more scary in this movie compared to previous movies where they're kind of these red shirts, they can't aim properly, they're usually just guards, whereas here you actually see them, descending on a village, causing havoc with flamethrowers. There's almost, it's like
they're fairly intimidating at the beginning of New Hope too. The problem is that whenever you have a hero that's coming across them, they can't win, so they have to suck slightly against the heroes.
Oh, but here they were a lot more accurate.
Oh yeah, they were.
And they had a lot more personality too. Like there were some good scenes.
And that
you got to see the one badass guy with the weapon that fought Finn.
Traitor!
Yeah.
And the shot where, in the first battle, where one of the stormtroopers falls and he grabs Finn's face and just smears blood across his helmet. I don't know, just like way more intense than you usually see with stormtroopers. Like there's actually blood beneath that armor.
Actual blood in Star Wars, that's pretty beyond the pale.
Yeah, like there's living people under there. It's a cool way to sort of humanize them a bit more.
Well, what I was wondering with that was like how there was a little bit of a gap for me, I guess, in that Finn seemed so like moved that his comrade or whatever had been killed, and then was just like the second he needed to was like, I'm just gonna shoot the shit out of these people, Well,
I wondered if that dude was like his best friend and he was like the only guy keeping him in this, and then I wondered, does he know that Poe killed him? Does he know about
that was Poe.
Oh.
Yeah, does he know?
But yeah, speaking of the fact that there are actually humans inside there, like my wife she's like just didn't really watch Star Wars or anything growing up, and in the theater she turned to me and she was like, they're not white robots?
That's so sweet.
I was like, oh, no, they're not clones either, apparently.
Yeah, but it has to be said, I mean, like, they're all just really good looking, so I feel like I need to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, anyway, that was important. Okay, do you guys want to talk about Kylo Ren?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because Kylo Ren is like...
Good.
Yeah. I was really not anticipating liking Kylo Ren, like, through all of the time that I've been paying attention to this movie and have been waiting for it to come out and listening to podcasts and people discussing things and toys coming out and like kind of having to like almost pledge your allegiance early to these characters because like I bought a Rey Funko and a BB-8 Funko 3 months ago, knowing almost nothing about the characters. And I really did not think that I was going to like Kylo Ren, and he turned out to be like just amazing to me and incredibly fascinating and super fucked up and just really interesting to watch on screen. Also, I don't watch girls, so I have not been like influenced in terms of Adam Driver, which I know a lot of people have some trouble with, but I was just like, nope, I get it.
It is so weird. It is so weird to see Adam Driver being a badass. Yeah.
So what is his character on Girls, just to kind of get a background, because I've never watched it either.
He's just
like, what do people think when they see
weird
him?
Guy. He's like just really weird.
But I don't think that Kylo Ren is a badass. He starts out that way. He starts out as the very scary guy, but as soon as he takes off the helmet, and I think this was very intentional on their part, he stops being that intimidating. he stops being that scary, and that's what's so interesting about his character. He's not the complete villain. He's not Darth Vader. He's not the exact person he wants to be, and that's why he's so cool, right? That he's not.
I think that's what
super
kind of
scary.
makes him more scary almost. Like, because he's not just this, mindless guy. All right, I'm just gonna kill you, and like, oh, it's this unstoppable evil. It's like, oh, he's also got like teen angst at like age 29. That's really scary.
Well, it's like it's someone who's like, I'm going to kill you, and I know I shouldn't, and part of me doesn't want to. I don't know. I mean, I personally watched the movie and left saying he's like completely deranged. Like, he is. I watched the prequels in preparation for this and done the originals and stuff, and I hadn't seen the prequels since they came out, and I forgot how just like horrible Anakin is. So horrible. Like, he is horrible. He is an irredeemable character. Like, way before we ever touched Darth Vader. But now I'm like, but the problem is, like, if the narrative doesn't treat him that way, right? The narrative treats him like a hero.
Right. But like, he's a hero right up until that moment.
Exactly. But in The Force Awakens, we get kind of the opposite of that. It's like, I almost have it in my head like J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan were rewatching the prequels to like get in whatever and prepare and know exactly what they had to do. Right. And they were like, this guy's crazy. And then they looked at each other, were like, wait, this guy's crazy. And put it together so that Kylo Ren is actually crazy. Like, he's actually not fully capable of dealing with the world because he has mental issues, and that is part of what's driving him. Because he's like someone who's like dangling off a bridge and he's trying to throw himself off, but like that one hand won't let go, and he's like, I want to go to the dark side, but like he just can't fully commit, and that is something that I find really, really interesting.
It is a more interesting moral complex, because with Anakin it was like someone who was good-ish who's being taken over by something evil inside of him, and this it's someone who wants to be a bad person but can't force themselves to go all the way. And it's almost like the family dynamic is very interesting. I just felt so bad for Han Solo and Leia, just because like it's almost like having a child who has addiction or something, or just someone who you want so badly to save from themselves. And like every line out of Kylo Ren's mouth, like it feels like if the acting wasn't so good, it would just land with a thud. Like, I'm being torn apart inside. I just want the pain to stop. But he lands it in a way where it's like, oh God, like.
Didn't Anakin say the same thing?
Han Solo, I've been expecting you.
Yeah, I think it was very relatable and just very real the way that they portrayed him. Just the whole idea of going against your parents and just being someone they want so badly to love, but they just can't because he's so irredeemable. And also just going back to the thing about him being a light guy who's like wants to be dark. That's so cool because that's something we've never seen before in Star Wars. It's always about like the dark side is seductive. You can't go to the dark side, but this is the character that completely flips the script, and that's really awesome.
Right, because it's always been hard to be on the light, and now it's like it's super painful for him to be in the dark.
Yeah, characters are always corrupted to the dark side. Never like, yes, take me, dark side. I'm all yours. And I kind of actually hope this guy makes it like the whole way. Like he, one-ups and like he takes out Snoke and ends up just becoming
full Vader.
I really do. Like in the next movie, if he offs Princess Leia, I'll be like, yes, go. But
you're a terrible person.
I am a terrible person, but you know what? I like a good villain.
She shouldn't have been in the movie.
What's up?
I'm just saying Leia shouldn't have been in the movie.
I got an emotional reaction from her showing up and her musical cue kicking in. I just like seeing Carrie Fisher get work again.
I just like all her videos with her dog doing press.
Yeah, she was fun on the press. I'll agree. Like, I don't think she was particularly impressive in the movie. I thought her scenes with Han were probably some of the most wooden dialogue in general. But that wasn't all her fault. Like, the dialogue itself was actually like kind of shitty.
Yeah, it was.
I thought. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was like very unsubtle, and I don't know that I feel like.
Yeah, like.
Well, I feel like there could have been a way.
It was Snoke that did it. Like, you're like, how do you get through that line? Like.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely had some of the most thankless dialogue in the movie, I think. And I mean, it's hard, right? Because the first time I Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. Like I really couldn't get into it. The second time it was a lot easier. I don't know. I like Leia's such an interesting character. It's just I almost wonder if like at this point it's better to keep her interesting off screen. You know, even though she didn't even do anything that interesting in this movie, to be completely honest. Like it's like General Leia not doing anything. Hi, I'm just standing here. You know.
Yeah, and she never became a Jedi, and she never, you know.
That was frustrating.
She's
to me.
just looking for her brother.
Yeah. That was.
That's consistent with the EU, and I guess the explanation is that she was always too busy to ever be trained as a Jedi, or too old. One of those. But
I didn't want her to be like a Jedi. I just wanted her to like see a little more into the Force.
Sure, we see her feeling it when Han dies. I don't know how much that is, but yeah.
Yeah, why doesn't she have her brother's
maybe she's,
lightsaber?
Like, missing an arm or something from a training accident. She's like, yeah, I used to be trying to be a Jedi, and then I cut my arm out.
That's why she's got the silver
I have my red
instead
arm
of the
here.
flesh-covered one.
She accidentally cut us.
Okay, Seth, I'm going to show you how to wield it. Ow! It's okay. It's the fake hand. We're good. The training's over. Go back to being a general.
So she's got 3PO's gold arm?
Maybe. As far as the lightsaber goes,
nothing but the best.
That lightsaber, Luke never had it, like, again. Like, presumably, it's the one he lost in episode 5, and I guess, like, Maz, like, found it, or it somehow went to her. I don't know if it ever got back to Luke.
That's something that I thought about in terms of the vision that Rey has, and because I was trying to think, like, whose perspective are we seeing these things from? Are they united by a person, by a point of view? And part of me was like, it could be Rey as a child, memories that she's like, you know, as a very small child, and like think that she's, you know, forgotten or have been forced taken away from her or whatever, which would be interesting and would, I guess, suggest that like she's been in serious danger before. You know, maybe contributing to like it was not such a crazy idea to leave her on a planet. But then I was also like, could it be the lightsaber? Like that was remembering this and like.
Well, the first scene we get is on Cloud City. It's the part where Luke is in the hallway trying to get away from Darth Vader. So so that is a very lightsaber connection as opposed to Rey. She couldn't have been there.
Right.
But even Kylo's like, that's mine when he sees it. Like he recognizes
so he knows
somehow.
about it. Yeah, I'm not sure how he would know about that.
Well, he probably knows about it because. Well, he's
got all his Darth Vader like literature.
His weird little shrine.
I have this biography of Darth Vader, and I have this biography of Darth Vader.
Well, in the Aftermath book, there's like a scene with like some creepy like dark side looking people who like buy a red lightsaber that they're told was Vader's, like somehow they got it from the Death Star, or I don't know, you know, and they're like they want to like destroy it to send it to Vader in the afterlife or something. It was very weird.
Yeah, that was very weird. There was a lot of weird stuff.
Going back to Kylo...
even the dogs think that's weird.
Back to Kylo Ren for a second. So, like, do you think his is going to be like a reverse Anakin arc where for 3 movies we had to watch Anakin descend into darkness and madness, and these 3 movies are going to be pulling him back from the brink, or is he just going to be consistently bad until maybe the very, very, very last moment?
I hope he's bad until the end. Because that'll be a nice juxtapose as opposed to, you know, falling and then a redemption. If this guy started off okay and then just went completely the opposite direction, then that would be kind of nice. It'd be good, like it'd be a good different direction for this new trilogy to go in instead of the same old thing that happened prior.
He could follow his grandpa and just, you know, sacrifice himself at the end.
Right. I think the redemption might be too easy, and that's something they might be looking to avoid, like a simple like, oh, he's good now, he saved the day, like Vader. But I don't know. Like I don't think it would be just like he's evil the whole time and he gets killed by Rey or whatever. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how they'll handle that.
Yeah.
This is kind of because this did kind of happen in like the old extended EU, right? They had a son who went bad and then had to be killed by his sister. Or
right. Yep.
But they could set it up for something where maybe because he was saying like you know like as soon as he's done using you, he's gonna throw you away, he's gonna kill you. So they could be setting it up for like you know in the 3rd movie or something, maybe he joins forces with them, you know, pretends he's good and then tries to become the new bad guy, or I don't know.
Yeah, I sort of think that, I mean, I don't know, and I kind of am not sure what I want, except for I don't want him to just be like to lose all of that internal conflict, because I think that's the most interesting thing about him. But I don't think it's going to be like, oh, and you're redeemed, like, super easy, you know? Like, I don't know if nowadays, like, I don't know. I don't actually think Vader, like, redeemed himself by what he did at the end of Jedi. I think he, like, went out in a good way, but, like, there's still lots and lots of blood on his hands, you know? So, like, I don't think Kylo, like, it's not like is he going to be redeemed or is he not going to be redeemed? Like, that's, like, a too simplistic way of thinking about it for me. I think it's more, like, what his attitude becomes and, you know, how much the story treats him as, like, I don't know, somebody who I guess hangs on to that part of himself, maybe in spite of himself or not.
But doesn't Star Wars kind of look at it simplistic like that? Like, I mean, we see Ghost Anakin at the end of Return of the Jedi, you know, indicating that, like, he's all good now.
Oh, that'd be sweet if, like, Ghost Darth Vader shows up and, you know, Kylo Ren's not actually crazy. Like, he's actually been getting, like, taught by Ghost Darth Vader. That would be awesome.
Oh my gosh. I never really turned to the light side, sucker. Or, like, just like there's two versions. There's like the Hayden Christensen one, and then then the old dude one, and then we're like, what is going on?
One of the things I was thinking about a lot, just based on little things that were mentioned, like a lot of use of the words light and dark, and both with Kylo Ren and also in terms of the whole story, is whether or not this is the story where they move not towards being light or dark, but like somewhere in the middle. Like that has its own issues, right? Because like, oh, there's no good, there's no bad, there's just whatever
power
exists in the middle, or power, yeah. But I think that could be potentially where they're going, because it seems to be kind of what Kylo Ren is that he's living between these extremes and he's trying to reconcile that. But maybe that's just who he is. Maybe he just exists between those, and maybe that's like what Snoke wants, or maybe that's what the ideal is. I'm not sure. I think
but it's tearing him apart.
He just doesn't get it.
Is that a Room reference?
Oh no, that's what he said.
Yeah, but it's
I mean, you don't want to include the prequel in it, but they do have the whole, like, the prophecy, like, bring balance to the Force, and it never made sense that it was like, and they explain it away like Darth Vader killed the Sith and he was a Sith and whatnot, and that's how he brought balance to the Force. But like, it never made sense that like the dark side or the light side winning was balance, right? You need both for balance.
It's almost
right?
like the two extremes are what causes all the chaos. Like, having the Jedi in charge of everything is almost just as dangerous as having the Sith in charge of everything. It just it's almost a dictatorship in either case. You have to kind of let the Republic run things, even if they are kind of inept. Having this idea of this group of religious fanatics running everything is always going to be destructive. It's this kind of vicious cycle. Maybe that's what has to be broken, rather than the Return of the Jedi.
Were the Jedi really that bad, though? Like, or were they mostly just inept? And, like, you know, they couldn't find Sith for hundreds of years. They didn't think they existed. Like, they existed in secret. Like,
they kidnapped and sterilized kids.
Yeah, they're pretty
sterilized kids.
They didn't let them have sex.
They didn't
cut anything off.
But they did anyway.
They would ask the parents, like parents could refuse.
Parents who were like ignorant slaves that didn't know any better. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna take care of your children. You're never gonna see them again.
And they didn't even,
when you die, he'll come back and murder a whole village of sand people.
And they never sent money to free her afterwards.
Wow, that didn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they tell her, yeah, your mom's a slave, you go help her now that you're... It's bullshit. It's a bullshit religion.
It's the whole stupid thing of like that you just can't have any attachments. Like, you can be friends with other Jedi, but you don't have any family, you don't get married, you know, like, that's what causes all the problems here.
It's like, ultimate veganism. That's what it is.
In the old EU, it's like they did that because they had like Jedi families, and then they would start warring with each other, and it became kind of a problem. So I think they were probably like, no marriage, no attachment, but you're like, that doesn't work because they're still people, right? Like you have to be attached to someone, right? Like, clearly they form friendships with each other, and that's okay.
Well, I have heard people drawing a comparison between what the Jedi did and what Hux is doing with his stormtroopers.
With his stormtroopers, yeah.
I don't think it's that bad, because I do think that, you know, the Jedi had good intentions, and like that definitely counts for stuff. Like, they did want to keep the galaxy peaceful and like people not killing each other, which is a good thing. But it doesn't seem to have worked out. You know, I mean, like Luke's attempt to do this crashed and burned really quickly too. So it is possible that their general organized system isn't meant to be, you know.
And we do get the bit with Maz about how throughout history it's always been like these different incarnations of light and dark and conflict, and you wonder if the ultimate end to that is neither existing or there being some kind of synthesis or something in between. I wonder if that's like the overarching plot here that we're going to be heading toward.
The synthesis ending of Mass Effect 3.
The green ending.
Would that be synthesis?
Yeah.
I choose the one where I don't destroy the mass relays.
Too bad.
No.
Anyway.
But I guess speaking of like the dark side, yay, segue. I personally feel like most of the flaws in the movie come from Starkiller Base.
Yes.
Just in
Yeah.
the fact that it exists and it is so similar to the Death Star. B, the fact that like we have no idea what's going on with it and what it does and how it works and is it moving? Apparently it is moving. We don't know. And finally at the end, like it's just an odd, like how it gets around the galaxy.
It moves.
It doesn't. It just shoots from where
I
it's
thought
at.
it does.
No, I think it
No,
just
it
has to
just
recharge by like the
It
like
like
in,
sucks.
But it hasn't
That's
been
the-
get to
that's
another
the
power
sun.
of the sun.
oh, so I don't
No,
know.
but
there could be
it looks
multiple
like it was
suns.
sucking it through like a wormhole or something almost. Like
Oh.
and like the only thing they said in the movie was that it's like it's some sort of hyperspace weapon. So like when they shoot it, it travels like through hyperspace to these other planets or something. So the planet doesn't have to move.
Yeah, right.
But-
Yeah, they do kind of show that.
Let's see.
But then
Star-
what happens?
Wait,
to
if
the
it's
sun?
traveling through hyperspace, wouldn't like nobody on the planet like see it coming?
The only reason why
Space.
I guess it must come out of hyperspace. Like
Special effect time.
Kylo sees it from his ship, and I'm like, what? But that's because he's on the same planet as Rey is, and apparently that's close by. Because they see
Yeah,
it
my
too from that.
qualms with Starkiller Base are less like logistic and more like how it's played out in the story. The first problem being like the whole thing about destroying the Republic. Like, why does no one seem to care about that? We don't care
Yeah,
about that 'cause we
literally-
have no connection to it.
Exactly. Like that to me is, I mean, the destruction of Alderaan is like pretty harrowing and you don't know what
Yeah.
Alderaan is either. And it's not like George Lucas gave like Carrie Fisher a ton of emotional stuff to do in that scene either. There's just a lot of tension, you know, and this is just like pretty visuals and like, oh, those people blew up. And I'm like, wait, was that Coruscant? Because then I'm
Hundreds.
sad. But if not, I don't care.
It just seems to come out of nowhere. Like the Death Star in the first movie, the whole movie revolves around it. It's this impossible weapon that can destroy everything. They're chasing this droid because it has the plans. Whereas here it just comes out of nowhere and we just expect it because we're used to the Death Star. But the problem is they're not the Empire. They're this fringe radical group. How did they construct this thing that's 10 times bigger than the Death Star? How did they get the resources? How did the
Well,
Republic
it's all-
not stop this? Like, it seems like they're too eager
Like,
to just
like-
reset the story to Rebels versus Empire and then just not going to explain it in any way. So they just do it in 2 seconds and then we just accept it. Like, I don't know. It just didn't feel earned.
Well, isn't that like? Did you
I
guys
agree.
feel that the First Order was like a big deal, like a big power, or like they were ruling half the galaxy, or like what was your impression just watching the movie?
I thought they
Well-
had to be smaller. Obviously, they don't have the same kind of reach. The interesting thing about them is they're all young people. Like it's mostly
That's
comprised of young, like relatively, it feels inexperienced people that are just getting their first
And that
steps into the whole trying to take over the galaxy thing. And I think that makes them seem like less intimidating.
and I
less,
think
like,
that's why they just
offensive.
basically built another Death Star, right? Because they were like, hey man, that was so cool. Like,
Yeah, they're
let's
sort of
do that.
They sort
you
of
know?
worship the Empire and the Vader, so they're trying to imitate them.
It's like Snoke is just this guy like has all these young idiots versus weird master plan. I don't know. He just doesn't want anyone to challenge him, so he's just all these dumb people following his orders.
Yeah, where are all the old Imperial commanders just like retired or died off or something?
Well, you think there would have been at least like one? Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you think there'd be like at least one Imperial commander who would be all like, "Damn, I don't want to be executed for all those war crimes I committed under the Emperor. I'll join you guys." And you don't have that. Like in the first one, you had Moff Tarkin, and he seemed like this sort of aged and grizzled, experienced commander. And you got guys who are basically calling all the shots that look like they graduated high school like 2 weeks ago. It's just like, okay, I guess you've achieved the rank of general in the last 15 minutes. Great.
Yeah, he's like the little kid from Ex Machina, like.
Yeah, he's just like him. He looks just like him.
I enjoyed Hux.
Yeah, I thought Domhnall Gleeson did a great job with the character, but I think this is an intentional thing. I don't think this was like, oh, we need all young, good-looking actors. Like, I thought it was supposed to be sort of like the First Order is like the analog for Kylo Ren, right? They're living up to an example. They're trying to be like that. I think that's all very intentional.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny.
They buy the propaganda because they weren't around.
Oh, good point. But it was funny when Hux is like, I've raised, these soldiers have been raised from birth, and I'm like, so they're your age, basically. They're not. I looked it up.
Little baby Hux.
A little older, but like still.
Standing in the
maybe the
playpen.
guy's really into genetic modification, and he's actually like 100.
He's actually a Sith Lord. I weirdly liked him though. I don't know why. I just thought
I did too. I like that he was able to give Kylo Ren lip, because you never got the impression that a lot of the guys that were able to talk back to Darth Vader usually ended pretty badly for them. But you get the impression that he's just not impressed or afraid of the main bad guy.
Yeah, and they have like a brother
Except
thing
early
going
on, he
which
was.
is interesting.
They're fighting for affection for Snoke.
Yeah, they are.
When they lose Poe or something, and he's like, you better find him. Like, he's like, for your sake. Like, the first several interactions are like Kylo kind of intimidating him, and he's kind of like, oh shit. But then after Kylo screws up and they both talk to, old Snoke, he's sort of like, it's like they're talking to Daddy, and he's like, hey man, he screwed up, right? Like, I'm good to kind of give him shit now. It's like, that's kind of like, it felt like the dynamic changed a little bit. Like, he had some leverage.
Kylo's not his boss. I mean, you're not even clear.
Well, at first it felt like it, though. Like, at first it felt like he was like, hey, if you don't find him, I'll kill you. And it felt like, oh, Darth Vader all over again. And then later on, he's sort of like, hey, man, don't let your personal shit get in the way, bro, or else. You're like, no one would have talked to Vader like that.
I think they are kind of a hot mess, like the First Order. They are kind of functioning on this, like, extremely survivalist level, which is, I guess, why they had to, in the story plot, take out the entire Republic. But
which that doesn't make sense either, right?
It does not make sense, no.
Yeah, are we
They're all in
supposed
one
to care?
system. Their entire fleet is in one system.
The entire fleet was apparently docked.
Right.
Yeah.
They were all there.
Okay.
So that I guess the explanation.
It's Pearl Harbor.
It's not explained in the movie, but the explanation is that they moved the Senate around. So this isn't Coruscant they're blowing up here, and that actually wasn't the capital anymore anyway. But it was like this random system where they transport around to, and they were all there. And so I guess they blew it up. I don't know.
See,
and there's all this stuff about how they're trying to demilitarize, and they don't have an army, like a standing thing. And I guess they have ships, but they don't really have like a militarized
very
force.
Small force.
Is that why they start the Resistance then? Because they
Leia does the Resistance.
Yeah, it's like a private
own.
army.
It's like private funding. Explained. That's why they're so small. Like, it makes so much more sense. I'm like, man, they had 20 ships. What the hell's going on? And you're like, well, they were just sort of like I don't know, like a group of mercenaries just sort of trying to keep an eye on these people. Like full scale war with the First Order wasn't really going on yet. Like, this was probably all like kind of like the first battles they were really having.
Right.
So
the implication is that the Republic has been like crippled by fear of becoming the Empire, or like returning to war. So they just completely refuse to have any kind of active presence, basically.
But even if you destroy one system, aren't there dozens more that would be like, oh, we're still part of the Republic, right, guys? Like,
yeah, I'm not sure about that. How that's gonna be explained.
It is something that's on, like, it's almost, no, it's not almost. It is too big to contemplate, and like the movie is too small to contemplate it. So it's like, it doesn't, and that's not a criticism of the movie, actually. I think that's a positive, but it's like, it doesn't, it physically can't fit in the movie. And like the fact that it is there, like, really bugs me. Yeah. And to be honest, like, I wish it had been something like the First Order had like some amazing like cloaking device where they could literally like get there and instantly attack and nobody would even know. So they would be like totally off base, and like they would, I spent a lot of time thinking about this, but like then they would have to like destroy that like nexus of that power, and then but they would also have to fight them, and then all these battles could be happening at the same time, like on the Hosnian system or Ilenium system or wherever they are, with Leia and everybody, and like all of those conflicts could be happening together in the same space, and then like you don't really have the Poe's space battle feeling exactly like Luke's, Because there's zero tension there. There's like Leia is like, oh no, they're charging the weapon to aim at us. I'm like, I'm not nervous at all. Like,
You're like, we've got about 15 minutes and an hour left in the movie.
exactly. I'm like, this is just not gonna happen. Like
There is so little tension that I wonder if it was meant to be that way, because it really just feels like the Starkiller base is not the important thing that's going on at all. Like it's just for the visual and whatever,
The action.
and that's not necessarily right, but that's not the heart of that part of the movie. The heart of that part of the movie is the confrontation between Han and Ben, Han and Kylo, Han and Rey and Finn and all of them, like with Kylo and resolving that. That's where like shit actually matters. That's where the tension is. But you wonder like then like why have any of this if it's not important, if it's just for the visuals, if it's just for the background noise.
Right. Like I mean in Jedi, like you're still worried about you know, I mean there are obviously pacing problems and stuff like that, but you're still concerned about the people on Endor, you're concerned about Luke, you're concerned about you know, Lando in the Millennium Falcon. Like there you have like areas of concern in each of those places, and they are somewhat disparate, but they're united, I guess, emotionally and thematically. Whereas this is trying to be that almost. Like I don't think they are trying to be united because they're in the same relative space, I guess, except for everybody on Leia planet. But like it just doesn't. Planet Leia. Let's just call it that.
And none of them were evacuating.
Right, exactly, right? Like, hey, we have a super
like,
weapon
we know
area
how
us.
this
Like,
goes.
we could turn tail and run.
We know we win, obviously.
Yeah.
I got the script, so...
Hey guys, there's all these spaceships hanging around here. Anyone want a dessert with me, or you guys good here? We're good? All right.
Also, I felt actually really bad for a lot of the First Order people, like, being blown up on Starkiller Base. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I feel like they did not sign up for that.
They're like unsullied. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I had friends on that Death Star.
But speaking of, like, I guess some flaws in the movie, there are some dangling threads that are not dealt with in any way, shape, or form. Like, for example, Maz Kanata. Like, the last time we see her, she's, like, telling Finn and whatever, like, hey, you have a weapon, OMG, like, hey, you got this. And then we never see her again. Like, we don't know if she died in the rubble or a bomb or whatever. We have she falls off the map. Same thing happens to Captain Phasma. Like, I walked out of the movie thinking that Phasma died on Starkiller Base, like, in a trash compactor. And I'm like, that would be really underwhelming for a way for this character to die. Especially since Gwendolyn Christie has done so much press for the movie, and Donald Gleason has done almost none, and he had like 5 times the amount of screen time that she did.
I mean, Phasma did nothing. She did nothing in substance.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my few nitpicks.
Early on,
what's the point?
Early on, she was just kind of that imposing figure. She had a few lines here and there. And if it wasn't for, like, the whole, like, oh, let me, like, lower the shields and get stuck in a trash compactor, which is kind of just, like, that's, like, you know, she got punked. Like, it wouldn't be so bad, right? Because, like, if you think about it, even in, like, everyone's favorite character, Boba Fett, like, what did he really do? Like, we don't even see him that much in Empire. Like, he shows up, he's basically a courier to take Han back. Like, he doesn't fire a shot. He doesn't really do anything that interesting.
They completely take the fangs out of her character by having her like get tackled by Chewie and having to put the shields down. Like that didn't make sense to me either. Like if she's like the most loyal soldier in the whole thing, why is she just doing this? Why isn't she just like going down with the ship and dying and not letting them?
But maybe that's
turn
the
shields
narrative
off?
That she isn't.
Sure,
maybe,
yeah,
like,
that could be it. I thought about that.
Like, whatever.
She's just doing her own thing, maybe.
I'm sort of like...
She's like, I got this sweet armor, no one bothers me.
Like, it bothers me, but as much as it does bother me, I'm kind of willing to let that slide. I just still think that they needed to tell us what actually happened to her in the movie. You know, just like it's the same idea that like so many things are sort of like just left to literally our imagination, and we have no textual no material whatsoever to theorize based on. You know, like I know that Phasma isn't dead because Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh no, don't worry, Gwendolyn Christie signed on for the next 2 movies, and I was like, okay, cool, hopefully we'll see more of her. But I have no idea.
Justify all those people who bought her action figure.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Well, Kylo's fate is left ambiguous
apparently
as
she
well,
was,
isn't it? So maybe she rescues Kylo. That's like how they end up off the planet together.
I think Hux rescues Kylo.
Well, yeah, Snoke issues the
Well, he
order,
was
but
told
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we need to see her at least clawing her way out of a trash compactor and being like, you know.
Or maybe she gets jettisoned into space and has to like swim her way down.
Couldn't there just have been a scene, like them leaving on a shuttle and she's just got like garbage all over her? And we're like, oh, she made it out.
I mean, I wasn't even 100% sure that Kylo got out because we never see them leaving. Like, the reason like I stick on these things is because they're so easy to fix. Like that, it's frustrating because it's like just end the plot line. Just like don't.
But I'm thinking they just didn't want a 3-hour movie. You know, I'm thinking there's if there's like an extended version or something on the DVD extras, just like so much cut out, is what I feel like.
Yeah.
It's a 2-second shot though. Like you show him walking into a spaceship and bam, it's taking off. Okay, that guy's not dying in the exploding planet.
Right, but when you think about that too, is like it might be like 5 seconds of screen time, but then you also have to think is if they're at that point where they're cutting things down and like what can you lose? How much is that going to cost in your visual effects budget to make that happen? The planet exploding, the ship's VFX, like everything. Right?
I don't buy it.
We cut that out.
Star Wars.
Yeah, they have plenty of money.
Yeah.
They have plenty of money.
I think the mouse can afford a few bucks for a couple of extra shots. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I'm sure it can, but if like they're already having to cut time down, like
it's a time thing. If anything,
maybe
it's a budgeting the time, not the money.
But it's like
so no. JJ said he was like there are a lot of things he wanted to do and wasn't allowed to do. Like he was, sort of like, and that's part of the reason why he didn't sign on for the second movie is like he was kind of forced to do this like as more of a rehash than what he wanted.
But again, I think that has nothing to do with the money. I think that's more them steering it production-wise into a direction to appeal.
Right, and that could be just like, look, we can't have a 2.5-hour movie or a 3-hour movie, so it has to come in at 2:15 period. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like that may not be your choice as an editor, but then if Disney's like, we need to be able to play this 20 times a day in a theater, like that's the problem with a movie like Lord of the Rings or something. If it's 3 hours, like you limit the amount of money you can make versus like an hour and a half film.
Yeah. I mean, I still think they could have at least made it like 2:25 and it would have been fine. But like,
I'm sure there's some marketing execs that would disagree with that.
Right. I know. See, that's the problem.
Yeah,
with these,
we are fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like there's so many like moving pieces. A lot of people are criticizing J.J. Abrams and like that's fair because he's the director. But like you don't know, right? Like you don't how many of these decisions were actually his, how many he like had any say on. I don't know.
I will say I think it was important, as much as we might gripe about it. It was important for them to draw a very obvious connection to the original trilogy to the degree that we had to have maybe something like the Starkiller base. It felt like it was important for them to establish that. Maybe that was our incorrect choice, but it felt like they needed some kind of very obvious, this is what we're doing. We are this Star Wars. This is what we're going to be. And hopefully they can be more creative and more unique going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the prequels turned people so off. They wanted to recapture the feeling of what it was like to go to a Star Wars movie. Not just for new people, but for old audiences who had sort of been spurned.
Yeah. And like I don't have a problem with like thematic, like people are like, oh, there's a droid on a planet and it finds someone and it has plans and that's such a copy. And I'm like, but I don't care because it's a different droid finding a different person who has a different life, who has like, like there are thematic things that totally work for me and things that I guess you could say like copy that 100%. Like I don't give a crap that like, oh my God, we're in another cantina. Like who cares? Like doesn't matter. Luke doesn't have a vision in Mos Eisley, So, like...
But it's not good or bad. It's just, like, whatever.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
But then, like, with Starkiller Base, I just feel like there are so many threads that get, like, sucked into that it kind of just, like, snarls and doesn't really, like, I don't know. However, I will say that both Han's death scene and the fight between Finn and Rey and Kylo are, like, top Star Wars moments for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love the saber fight. It was so like brutal, and they're just hacking at each other, and there was no didn't have that acrobatics and choreography of the prequels. It was just they were just really emotionally attacking each other.
Yeah.
Did anyone else think that like the lightsabers were kind of toned down, or at least like maybe Kylo's was? Because like he slices at Finn and doesn't cut him in half. He just sort of
one's getting
scrapes his back.
Yeah,
like no limbs were cut off. Like what is going on?
That doesn't feel like Star Wars.
there aren't many movies that don't have some kind of dismemberment, but yeah, I don't know. I think that the actual explanation for his lightsaber in particular is that it's not as strong as a normal lightsaber.
It's
like,
an actually shitty lightsaber.
right. It's actually bad.
Yeah.
So.
His doesn't even look right. Like it's all like fuzzy and arcing, and it's not like that nice smooth blade like all the other ones we've seen.
Oh, he tried his best,
Yeah,
you
I've heard
guys.
it's like a cracked crystal.
He's like, I have to have the two
Made it
little
in woodwork.
daggers on the side. Lightsaber
He got a B minus.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the explanation, like
And
the
Hux made a
canonical?
model, and he got an A.
Isn't that like the canonical explanation for the two ports on the side of it? Is that the energy is not perfectly balanced, so he has to have.
Right. It's
There has
like
to
a
be
mid,
some-
it's like
He,
exhaust.
I think he
or
cracked
something.
his. I think it's like he cracked his crystal to do that, and it makes it kind of like it makes it a little bit crazy. But I know like in some of the EU stuff is like if you were inexperienced and like couldn't like properly hone your crystal with the Force or whatever, like it wouldn't stand up. You know, it wouldn't be as strong.
It wouldn't be erect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, like if you
Sorry.
came against another lightsaber, it could just like fail. You know, like stuff like that.
The moment when it flies into Rey's hand, though, that was like, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, that was the
That-
moment. So
That was
good.
my favorite moment
Yeah.
of the movie. I like every time I've seen it 3 times, and every time I'm like, oh my god, it's so awesome.
And
I guess-
you know,
and I-
burst into applause because both the first time I saw it, the theater burst into applause, and I was just like in a
Yeah.
state of bliss.
and I think that's the first time that Luke's theme starts playing. You know, when he's looking at the binary suns, that theme song starts
Yeah.
playing when
Yeah.
she captures it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would have had that positive a reaction, though, if I hadn't been convinced the whole movie that lightsaber was going to be Finn's, because I
Right.
thought that was where they were going with it, is that
Mhm.
she rejects that
Uh.
path, and that he's sort of the reluctant person who this gift unexpectedly falls into his hands, and he's gifted at it. But no,
That
it
would
was
have been
her.
nice.
I mean, it would have been interesting,
He
but
did okay.
it's just like that wasn't his moment, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I was talking about this like a lot leading up to it. I thought that she would be the one to end up with the lightsaber, and when all the marketing material came out with Finn having it, I was kind of disappointed because I thought it made sense for her to have it just the way that things seemed to be described at the time. So I was very happy to be tricked by that and for it to work out that way.
Yeah, me too, because all of it's like Finn with the blue lightsaber, and John Boyega's been like getting all the interviews like, how did you learn to fight with a lightsaber? And it's like, Daisy Ridley doesn't have to answer those questions yet.
Yeah, they really pushed that. Like when all of a sudden it's like the posters were coming out with him with the lightsaber, you're like, is that supposed to be a spoiler or is that like some kind of misdirect? Like what's going on?
And I'm fine with being misdirected. Like, I don't care. I'm totally fine
I don't.
with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care.
I have a
Um,
question. So did y'all know that Harrison Ford was going to get killed? Like, not like going into the movie, because it didn't hit me until he goes out on the gangplank and everything is like perfectly positioned. Like all the main characters are just far enough away where they couldn't help him, but they can watch dramatically as he gets killed.
Yep.
It's like,
It
is it
turned a
the
lot like
moment he-
Obi-Wan's death.
Yeah.
I having obviously paid attention to the discussion, like it was something that was at the forefront of my mind for a long time, and then I just like forgot about it. And then I think like the first time he showed up in the movie, I was like, oh right, he could die in this movie. And then I forgot about it again, and then he walked onto the gangplank, and I was like, shit, oh no. And yeah, at that point I knew.
I thought it was very likely. Just there were a lot of speculation on trailers like someone who would die. Interestingly, the part that people were dissecting was the part with the jacket on the ground, which was actually Finn, who isn't dead probably. But yeah, there was a lot of speculation that like Han would die or Chewie would die or somebody would die, and it just made sense that Han would be the one to go out here.
Or Luke. I was afraid it'd be Luke.
I wasn't afraid it would be Luke, because I knew he was going to be in it for so little that I was like, they're not throwing that toy away just yet.
Did you
Yeah,
know
I
that
did-
ahead of time?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I did know. Well, that's hard to say because I didn't get spoilers, but I did like listen to a lot of speculation, which at some point, like when you have all the pieces from the trailers and stuff, adds up to a certain amount of knowledge. So yeah, there was.
Yeah, the whole him not being on the poster is a good hint that he's not going to
Yeah, I figured
And, like,
he
not
wasn't
really
going to
being
be
in
in
the
it.
trailers or anything.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the movie didn't feel like it was pointing toward Luke exactly. Like it's technically the hunt for Luke Skywalker, but it's not really. It's like the hunt for the piece of the map to find Luke Skywalker. So it didn't feel like it was leading directly to Luke until the end. For me. But that scene with Han and Ben was like, I just, I really have to give them props because I find it perfectly, as complicated as Kylo is and as simple as like any relationship between a parent and a child could be, like, I believe everything that everyone says in that scene. I believe that Kylo is being torn apart. I believe that Han thinks he's being, manipulated. I believe that, like, I believe when stupid Ben turns on his lightsaber and thrusts it through Han's heart, like, I believe him when he says thank you. Like, it's so messed up.
And it's really sort of sad because Kylo's speaking in such broad terms about I'm going to be so powerful and so strong and the dark side will liberate me, and it's like, please come home, me and your mother miss me, and it's like, it just crushes him because it brings him back to that childhood place, and his face just cracks, and I just love that sort of familial connection breaking through all of the opera.
Yeah.
Oh, it touches his face. And...
Yeah,
so
God.
sweet.
And that was so perfect though, because we have not ever had I guess you could say Anakin and his mother, but like, let's just not talk about that. Like a parent-child relationship like that, and all we get is the tragic ending of this one, and we still get that incredibly sweet moment that is like so brimming with love that, like, I can't, guys.
I think my favorite part of that is it kind of, like, without saying anything, you can kind of understand that this might have been the catalyst for tearing Han and Leia apart, that this was the thing that destroyed their relationship. And even though they crack wise at each other and they still care about each other, like, the loss of their child is nothing could overcome that in that relationship, and so it just dissolved. It makes sense without even having to say it.
I almost wish they would have talked about it less, because I think you're right. It's very obvious. It's very clear, like, what happened without having to, they do deliberately lay it out earlier in the movie when they're talking to each other. And I don't think that was needed necessarily to make that plain.
Yeah.
I can't help but blame Leia for it, which is totally wrong and terrible. But, she was the one who told him to bring him back. Like, he might have given up on Kylo Ren already.
Oh, but I think he wanted
but she
to.
sent him away in the first place.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you really think that Han Solo would have just walked away if his, ex-wife or ex-lover hadn't, nagged him in the back of his head, go get our boy? No, I think he would have gone out there anyway.
Yeah. And I think he would have felt like shit if he hadn't.
I don't know, because it kind of fits the character of Han Solo to walk away from like a really, really, really bad situation,
But even with his son, I don't know.
But that's why I think this is the perfect cap on Han Solo's arc, because he is that guy who runs away, who doesn't face things, that is not willing to, like, have any kind of investment in anything. And that's why it's so cool that, like, in this moment he finally does. He could have not listened to Leia. He made the choice on his own. And that's what's so cool about it, is that he is invested. He wants to believe that his son will come back. And
he knows what the options are. He knows that he could have killed him. Like, there's a lightsaber right there. He's not an idiot. And I love that. I mean, it kills me. Like part of me, like, is in intense, constant pain that, like, Han and Leia's amazing story is ultimately a tragedy that ends like Han and Leia's story, looked at point A to B to C, is a sad story.
Yeah.
And that's just horrifying, especially because we've sat with it for so long. Not having read the EU, I've just kind of been like, and they were cool and snarky and funny together, and maybe they had kids, and Leia ran stuff, and Han did the Falcon, and, like, and there's no out for that. Like, my sister was really upset in terms of, she kept saying, like, they killed someone who was immortal in terms of Han Solo, and I'm like, they killed a thing that was immortal. They killed this relationship that was almost more important than the two of them independently.
Yeah, and you mentioned Legend of Korra before, and I think, it really casts a dark shadow on the happy ending of Return of the Jedi. Like, we had such an idealized vision of what these characters were at the end of their, that was their victory. They were crystallized in that moment, and then to see everything that's happened in the past 20 years, it's all fallen apart. They've broken up, they've lost their son, Luke's gone crazy practically, driven into exile, it all fell apart, the Republic fell apart. They never really lived up to the hopes that we had for them in Return of the Jedi.
You're gonna make me cry, Duncan, and I don't even give a shit about this stupid universe.
Well, the thing is, it's so weird. Like, the movie functions in a way that it's, like, actually quite a blithe story. Again, taking into account that the movie is not big enough to hold on to the craziness of Starkiller Base and the billions and billions of life forms who were slaughtered instantaneously by its power. But it is a light story. It is a very funny story that is built on and contains within it multiple crazy tragedies that are both on a very large scale, and also like Luke and the his like baby Jedi, which is I guess larger, and something like Han and Leia, whoever left Rey on Jakku, like all these things are deeply powerfully sad. And I think part of what makes me like look forward to 8, aside from just like being able to like chill with these characters again, which is awesome, is that like hopefully we'll be able to dive more deeply into some of the like architecture beneath Force Awakens.
And I think that's very true of Luke as well, and we're going to get to explore that in the next movie about how it seems like he's failed. It seems like he's a failure as we see him, and you can read that on his face, which I think Mark Hamill did an excellent job portraying without saying anything. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see how his own tragedy as a character, just like it kind of was with Han and Leia.
Yeah. I actually think that was probably the best acting Mark Hamill's done in Star Wars.
It's not that hard to achieve. But yeah.
No, but he looked like he had tears in his eyes. Like I was actually quite moved seeing him again.
A lot of people were giving that whole scene crap. So I don't know.
It was framed weirdly, like the whole helicopter.
Shot,
yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like it went on for too long. Like she's just sitting there and he's staring at her, and it's sort of like, is he like, oh, finally the student has come to the master, or is he like, oh, dang it, I was gonna take a nap? Like it's hard to tell. Like they like I was saying, they should have punctuated it with him just like force grabbing the lightsaber and then goes to credits.
But you wonder,
at least he's like, oh, he's still got it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah, because as it was, like it was just kind of
No, I saw that, and Luke turns around and he sees her, and she takes out the lightsaber, and you can almost see on his face where he goes, "Oh God, no, not this shit again!"
Yeah, exactly.
I just got away from it all. I mean, Northern Ireland sounds like a fantastic retirement home if you're from the desert and you're finally surrounded by water. This is great. You can go swimming for the first time in your life.
Yeah,
all
I
of a
don't
sudden,
think
someone's gonna haul you back.
I didn't know there was so much green in all the universe.
Oh, that was sad.
That was cheesy.
It was like even Han's like, oh, come on, kid, join my crew, kid, come on.
Yeah.
Did you? I didn't buy that he lives on that tiny island though. It's like a cliff face in the water. Where does he sleep? What does he eat?
Used to live there.
Really?
Yeah.
There's little huts there.
It's called Skellig Michael Island. It's an actual like those ruins are actually there. It's like an old monastery.
I guess my perspective.
History, Katie. History.
Shut up. Skellig.
Boats bring him supplies.
Well, the in-world explanation is that Han mentions that he's looking for the first Jedi temple, which we assume this place is. So to some degree, he's still in the game. It's not like he's like run off and maybe like this is his exile. Maybe this is where he is, but it's still like a Jedi thing, right? It's like he's not ignoring that part of himself.
Yeah. No, I feel like he's trying to be like a Jedi monk type thing and / stay off the radar and out of the galaxy's machinations.
But how rough does that have to be that like you were the sole inheritor of this incredible legacy, that you pulled it out of the ashes, and then when you try to do justice to it and start it over, history repeats itself and it's all your fault.
He's basically Tenzin if Boomy had like gone bad. Yeah, no, it's really sad, and I mean, I think the look on his face the second time I saw it and was more like in with the theories and stuff, I really thought, I don't know, I thought there was like a familial recognition there, and it was less about the lightsaber and more about the person who was holding it out to him. But I kind of did want it to end on just like either her face or like her like opening her mouth to say Luke or something. It did. Like, there are a lot of shots in the movie that go on just a teeny bit long. Teeny. I don't think it's not like that, but just a little bit long. I don't know.
Have you guys heard the Tombstone theory? Have you guys heard this?
What is this?
No.
So if you look in this shot, I don't know if this is 100%
The
true,
puppy
but there's
likes
like,
it. Sorry.
yeah, there's look in this shot with him before he turns, where there's like this rock that is oddly sticking out of the ground. If you guys ever see it again, you can look out for this. But yeah, there's like this rock that doesn't look like a natural formation that some people think might be like a tombstone he's looking at of somebody who died or something like that.
Well, it could be her mother. I mean, like,
Yeah.
as much as I don't want it to be like, oh, Rey, your mother was wonderful and she died, like, or Kylo Ren killed her, like in the EU. I am sort of like, maybe we should keep this a little more streamlined, but I don't know. We'll see.
I really don't want them to be related.
It kind of parallels Yoda for me. You know, you kind of like everything goes straight to hell. Okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to go peace out in some unknown location and just sort of meditate on apparent failures. Because that's kind of what Yoda did with Dagobah. Like, nobody knew where the hell that was. And
Yoda's a little justified, though, isn't he?
How?
Because he
like
he
a
gave
mass-
his attempt. He tried to take down the Emperor, and he's basically like a 99-year-old, and he's just like, I can't do this anymore.
999
So he's like, I'll go.
year old.
But like for one of us, he's just like, I just can't do it. So he's like, I'll just go retire and maybe live long enough, someone will come along that I can help.
I don't know.
That's maybe what he saw was the best he could do.
In Revenge of the Sith, like when he leaps out of the Senate and like into Bail Organa's like moving speeder, it seemed a little bit to me. And he's like, "Go to the Dagobah system.
It's
in
time
exile,
to go into
I
exile.
will." And
Like,
it's
why?
Why? It's like,
He's like, I couldn't beat the Emperor, so
for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I mean, you have to assume though, if there was a map to Luke, to some degree, he might have wanted to be found. Like, why is there a map to him if he didn't want to be?
Yes.
To be tracked, and also like the whole idea of why did R2D2 turn on at that time? Was he signaled somehow? And could it have been because Rey walked in there? I don't know.
JJ says that like I don't know how we're supposed to get this, but like JJ says supposedly like when BB-8 is first talking to him, he's like, "Hey, I got the part of the map, and do you have that map?" And like it just takes R2 that long to like wake up and process it and find the data. And I'm like,
yeah, but still, like, why does he have that map at all?
Got all these updates to get through.
Yeah. He's like,
He had to turn himself on and off.
Galactic iTunes agreement is really long, and he always reads it.
Read the whole
Adobe,
thing. Yep.
all of it.
He's like, I just gotta make sure what I'm agreeing to here. Just hold on.
Yes.
I'll boot up in a second.
But yeah, I mean, there still was a map.
Agreement.
So there had to be a reason why he had a map at all, unless like R2 had his personal mission to track down Luke or something.
Well, see,
and you only need a piece of it, like constellations and stuff. Like we can figure out stuff like galaxies over, and like they can't find something in their own galaxy based on a little piece.
yeah, and it's also weird that the Empire can't find it when they have everything else except that piece. Like they should have been able to find him easily. But whatever.
Yeah, because they had the larger part of the map.
Yeah, it's like just go to that area then. Like
it was like from the old Empire's database. Like, oh well, we know where to search. Yeah, like
I guess
these
you could be
dozen
lying.
planets. Yeah, but the problem is Kylo Ren doesn't have visions of an island, so he doesn't know right where to go.
Right. So okay, that thing to me also, another great scene I thought, when he's trying to force torture Rey and she totally flips the tables on him. I thought that was fascinating. He's like, I see the island, and like at that point in the movie, you're like, you have no idea. Like I didn't even remember that. But to me, that's a memory. That's not a vision. I like to,
I thought it was a vision or like a dream that she has. I don't know.
But yeah, but based on memory to me, because like otherwise,
but how would she even know to visualize such a place if Jakku is the only memory that her conscious self has?
Exactly.
The Force. That's how the Force works, as it turns out.
That's not how the Force works.
Oh, that is how it works.
Hey, why can't R2D2 have the Force?
Robots.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, maybe he has midi-chlorians. We don't know.
Where are them droid Jedi?
Maybe he woke up
The
exactly when he needed
Jedi are
to.
droidists.
Well, I mean, so my interpretation of why R2 woke up the first time I saw it was that, like, Luke felt that either he felt Han's death or he felt Ben, like, exploding in the dark side or something like that and was like, okay, shit just got real.
Signal.
Exactly. But a lot of people think it's like when Rey gets onto the base that that he wakes up.
Yeah, because that's the first time she's there, so it makes sense that might be the trigger.
Yeah.
But then he knows about Rey or something, or R2 knows about Rey or something, so you wonder what that
He's got
could
his
be.
genetic scanner going, looking for Master.
Well, if he's met her before, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could be.
Yeah,
We know R2-D2 knows everything. That's why he had to just like be silent for a while for the plot.
Exactly.
And the way that
Yeah, and Luke
Leia-
wasn't all like, "Who the hell are you?" when Rey shows up too. So he just, he didn't seem surprised. Maybe he's been like somehow guiding her along her journey and like helping her abilities to, come back or whatever. That's how she can.
And he
that's
just
how
goes
she
with
can
her.
like.
Who, Luke or R2?
Luke. Maybe he's like guiding Rey somehow, and he's like sort of helping her, get her abilities faster or recover.
I was
them
expecting
during
like
prior.
a vision or like a Obi-Wan voiceover or something at some point. Were you like I thought maybe
Yeah.
like Luke
I thought
wouldn't show
maybe
up in the
too.
movie at all, but we'd get like a spectral Luke or like a something.
Well,
I
we
wonder
also-
about the whole awakening thing, though. I wonder, is that exclusive to Rey, or is that like everybody? Is there like a bunch of people that are now Force sensitive? I don't know.
I hope it's
Yeah,
just.
it's not clear.
I mean, I don't see why like less people would be Force sensitive. I think it might just be like Rey is significant because she's a Skywalker, and Ben is significant because he's also partly Skywalker. That like the convergence of these two are.
Yeah. I'm thinking like in terms of like Game of Thrones, like they're like dragons awakening, like the magic is back in the world. That's how I'm kind of
Oh,
like. What is
Yeah.
the trigger
But
for
I
that,
think-
though?
but see, I
There
don't
are three
think it's
heads
like
of the
that.
Alliance.
It's like when the
OT3.
Republic was gone, right? Like there's just no one to find these people and train them. So like Force sensitive people just end up being, like sports stars or especially gifted at something and not really realize, right?
Yeah, or kidnapped for their abilities.
Or kidnapped and
Yeah.
killed by Darth Vader. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm reading this, like I guess the original title was Shadow of the Empire. Like I don't know why they changed it.
Wasn't there a video game named Shadow of the Empire?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, there was like a video game.
It was like a multimedia thing. It was like supposed to be set between Empire and Jedi, and it was a video game and a comic book, and yeah, it was just told the story of like the other side of the galaxy while all the other stuff was happening. It was about like the underworld, I think, bounty hunters and.
Maybe they wanted to have like a fresh start and just say, okay, look, we're going to have enough references within the movie. We don't need to have, the title of the movie also be a reference to, some of the other older stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how I felt when I first heard The Force Awakens, but I probably didn't
It's not
care.
the best title. But it's not a huge deal. Like Star
Yeah.
Wars is
I
not
think
known for its
I think it
amazing
implied
titles.
like what's been happening to the Force for 30 years. Like where are all the Jedi? What's going on?
Yeah,
Like,
it
that's
implies it's been like a dormant period and something big is starting to happen now.
Yeah.
Which it
That's
has.
why I think about the
Except for the
Empire,
evil
like
guys.
dragons thing. Like I think in that terms, in the mythology seems to suit that. Like Jedi had become a myth, and that was all really cool the way they set that up. And it
Yeah.
seems like it's all like storybook, and it's coming back into the world. That was a cool like. sort
And
of
I
device.
love how they live like in the remnants of the Empire. Like she sleeps in a submerged AT-AT and all that. Just the shadow hangs over them all of what happened before.
And I mean, it's interesting because like
Shadows of
Rey-
the Empire.
Exactly. It should have been called
Like-
Shadows of the Empire.
I mean,
Sorry.
I like The Force Awakens, but I think I don't know. It is the like The Empire Strikes Back is like the worst title I could probably imagine for a movie.
What about the Phantom Menace?
I actually love the title of Phantom Menace. I love it.
I like it too.
I think it's creepy. I think it's suggestive. I really like that title. I think it's actually the best of the Star Wars titles. Okay, bye, Amber.
Bye, Amber.
See, Amber.
But I mean, I know a lot of people had issues with the whole like mythification of the Jedi, mystification. I don't know, whatever. And like Rey doesn't even know that Luke exists, which is possibly a mark against her being his daughter, pending mind wiping weird stuff happening. Because she says like, "Oh, I thought he was a myth," and it's like, even at 5 years old, like you remember like your father's name, right? But I don't know. It's all really complicated.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's like it was his kid, but like he was just daddy was always gone training Jedi or something, or like maybe they didn't see each other much, and he's like, there'll be time later, when I finish training these Jedi, and then
And
that
it could
didn't
be. It doesn't have to just be like a force wipe. It could just be like a extreme trauma she suffered that seems to suit the narrative.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
If she was just
repressed memory.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I did
Yeah.
think it was strange how Leia and her hug when she touches down, because seemingly they'd never met before, but the way they hug seemed really familiar.
Yeah, that was another weird. Strange thing.
Yeah. I've heard the theory that Leia is her mother to maintain the Skywalker thing, and that she had some relationship with somebody else or something like that.
I just don't know how that would work. Like, Leia would recognize her. Leia would know she had another kid. Like, there seems to be none of that.
Yeah, I was talking about this with people on Twitter today, and because I was talking about it with people on Facebook the night before. Because to me, like, I would actually have been okay if they were like, if they dropped a hint that like Han and Leia had a daughter who maybe got caught up in this whole thing and like they thought was dead for whatever reason. But then like the narrative has a responsibility to at least hint at that possibility to us. Like they have to say like, oh, she would be the same age as, or like, you know, after we lost blah, 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 things were never the same, or like even half of those sentences, you know, and there's no indication whatsoever. And Han seems to recognize her. Like Han, you know, the more I think about the movie, like the more it seems like they have some idea of who she is. And if she is their long lost daughter, that's a really, really terrible reaction.
Sure, there are little
absolutely
subtle things that
Han just seems more impressed with her, I think. Like at first I thought he recognized her, like that scene where they're in the bar and she's like, tell me about this girl. And then she goes down and finds the lightsaber, and then she shows up and she's like, oh, the lightsaber is calling to you. And I'm like, oh, did Han like tell her all this stuff? Or like, but seeing it again, I'm like, I think Han was just like, we found this girl on Jakku. She seems cool. Like,
I think
it seems like he doesn't really know.
I think so too, but there are little things you could maybe piece together, like that whole part about like her seeing the grain thing, like the way he looks at her, like it looks kind of like almost like
guilty.
Like guilty. I don't know. Maybe there's something. I don't know.
I think we can rule out Princess Leia being like her mother, because if she is, and then she's all busted up about Ben turning into Kylo Ren, shouldn't she be like, oh my god, it's my other child. I'm not letting you go. Stay with me.
Yes, exactly. You know? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Exactly. Yeah. So.
What about tinfoil hat that she's Finn's mother? You know,
I've heard that Poe is her mother, her father. Poe is her father. I've heard that one. That was my dad, actually.
Poe and the babysitter, yeah.
Oscar Isaacs is fairly older than them.
Yeah, he is. He's like 36.
How old is he?
38, really? I thought. No, let me see. He's 36.
Okay.
And they're both like 23 years old.
Early 30s.
No. They're babies.
Huh.
They're so young. It's crazy. And they're also like really good friends, which drives me nuts. It's so cute. I have to say, actually, like in addition to everything else, I was really kind of nervous for Daisy Ridley's acting, and she was so good. Oh my god, she sold me 1,000,000% on every part of Rey, and yeah.
I think that's the advantage of not really knowing her, that she's undiscovered, is that we don't have like an impression of her as an actor, so we can just let her be the character almost. I think that's never.
Yeah, but like I don't have other impressions of Hayden Christensen, and he was terrible.
Oh sure, yeah, she did a great job too.
Yeah,
but
you still need the talent.
It was actually a little bit harder for me with Oscar Isaac, because I've seen him in other stuff. It was a little bit harder, but I mean he did a fine job. But it was a little bit harder to see him as like this new Star Wars character.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He was Poe Dameron, bitch.
Oh, I like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's cool.
And that scene where he just kills like 20 stormtroopers and like 5 TIE fighters in like 10 seconds. I'm like, either that's the Force or it's just like that's like the new ships are just crazy good.
No, but it's Rey who's the Mary Sue.
Yeah, I mean the whole it's a stretch a little bit, but I can justify like all the things Rey knows, like how to speak all the languages and like how to deal with like all the parts. Like it's her upbringing, that's
her English accent.
Well, I don't know about that. She's an English actress, but yeah, like the one thing is like how does she speak Wookiee? Like how does she know that one? I guess there may be some Wookiees visited or something, but
well, how does everyone speak droid in this universe? How does it? Well, what's his name? He said he doesn't. Finn. He didn't know how to speak.
Yeah, I don't speak that. Yeah.
Morse
I don't know.
code or something. Droid,
it's a minor thing though.
Well, Jakku seems like a
I don't know. I mean,
different people, so she's probably
it seems like
sure.
she'd be exposed to a lot of weird cultures.
And I'm gonna think is she's got all of these downed like Imperial ships around and stuff, and they've got computers, and she lives in an AT-AT, so maybe maybe she just had access and taught herself. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
she's
mean, she has a lot
been
of time.
She's been in the Millennium Falcon before. Like, that's easy to miss on the first time, but she's like, that's where the gunner is. That's where whatever. Like, she's been inside it. She's flown other ships.
Yeah.
Do
you think it's weird that they were able to fly the ship right away like that?
Yeah, I thought that was odd, but I was able to go along with it because it seems like technology is just so weirdly homogenous in this universe that anybody can pilot just about anything if they know how to, like, even rudimentary technology skills.
Right, but the weird stuff for me wasn't
firing up and going.
Right, it was like, do you need keys? Do you need like an ignition device? Is there like fuel in it? Like, that's the stuff I was wondering.
I was wondering about the fuel.
Yeah, on my first time, I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, aren't these things powered by nuclear energy? I don't know, but I just assumed, like, seeing it a second time, I was kind of like, okay, so she's been like, it seems like she's been repairing this for the guy, like maybe for food.
Oh,
she's been like working on it because she's like, I know the compressor's here. I know he put this fuel line in. He like all this stuff. So it seems like she's been working on it, like, on and off for years. So she knows a fair amount about the ship. And maybe, like, even though it hasn't been flown in years, like, it's kind of ready to go. It just doesn't have all the upgrades they want or something.
Yeah. And it seems like people would keep the Millennium Falcon as a prize, as a trophy.
It's super old.
Junk.
That ship is garbage.
Garbage will do.
That probably got the biggest cheer from the audience I was with, is them just realizing that it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of annoying is I bought they have this, like, picture book which is like cutaways of, like, the new ships and stuff, right? And it's pretty cool. Like, shows you, it's like folds out and shows you the Star Destroyer, and it's got, details about all this stuff. But then it's got that ship that they were going to go to that gets blown up in like 2 seconds. It's got like a whole 2-page thing about that. I'm like, what?
Need to establish why it's so much better than the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, like, I know what the inside looks like and where the cockpit's, like, I don't know any of that.
Some artist had to have created that anyway, even if they're just going to use it for a few seconds, like the assets for the video game. Yeah, the design had to be created by somebody, it didn't just come out of thin air.
Yeah.
I suppose also if you're the artist and you're like, oh, sweet, I get to draw out everything that's on that one ship and I just get to, copy the outside. Awesome. It's probably a pretty cool thing to do. You get to design something that's going to be permanently part of this universe.
That'd be cool. What do you guys think about just, like, the general design, like the ships and the uniforms, and everything was like a bit of a throwback but also a bit advanced, like?
I liked it a lot. It felt very Star Wars to me. I mean, this isn't original, but, like, pretty much everything except the weird creatures that they fought on the where Han and Chewie were, like, looked and felt very Star Wars to me.
That might be my least favorite part of the whole movie, is that chase through his frigate or whatever. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Were they called, like, Raptars? Like from Rugrats?
That's what I was thinking too, actually.
Raptars,
I think, is what it is.
I mean, I like the Finn and Rey stuff. I think that's funny, but, like, the rest of it, I was just not really, I mean, I guess it does serve to illustrate that, like, Han is not functioning at 100% capacity. Like, he's fallen in with very low types,
He's regressed.
He murdered his whole crew, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that ship, there's a lot of people running. Yeah, but it's like him and Chewie were the only ones that survived, and you know what that means is they were probably, like, supervising from, like, a safe distance while everyone else died. It's, like, horrifying when you think about it.
Han needs Leia in his life, basically.
Yeah, he's in a pretty
Han,
pathetic
don't
state.
get your whole crew killed. Jeez.
You went from galactic hero back to smuggler? Come on.
Yeah.
What would have his, like, I don't know, his career path have been? Like,
he doesn't
legitimately,
have skills.
like, become a merchant. Like, he wouldn't go into politics. They apparently, didn't need the military anymore, and he's not really a military person anyway. Like,
yeah, without Leia, he's not invested in any of that stuff. So obviously, he goes back to what he knows, I think, and he says that, right?
He must have been like a stay-at-home dad, and then because she's still big in the politics and running whatever's left of the group that's cleaning up the Empire. So yeah, he was probably like a stay-at-home dad, and that didn't turn out well. So then he's like, well, me and my dog are taking off, and we're going back to being smugglers.
Why not help Lando run Cloud City or something?
Where is Lando?
Great question.
Where is Lando?
There was no room for him in this movie, though. I was glad he wasn't.
Lando's in a
No, yeah, this movie was stuffed just fine. You don't need it anymore.
No, it's like I want answers to these questions, but not necessarily on screen.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and there's, I continue to think, and this is something that slightly worries me about the story going forward, is that like there's so many, not particularly the like saga movies, but the Star Wars story movies, is like that there's just a desire to explain everything that happens, like, ever, and it's like don't do that. You lose so much of the mystery and the joy of it,
Midi-chlorians.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the weird thing with people like trying, like, I don't know, I did have all those like questions like why does this make sense? What's the Republic doing and everything? And that could have been explained better. But I think it fits that they don't want to like explain everything, right? Because they need to leave some things a mystery. Like some things were a mystery and weren't really explained and were just implied in the original trilogy, and just spelling it all out doesn't really make sense.
I just think you needed a better job of telling people like how powerful is the First Order and the Republic, like how much area to, like just sort of that thing. Like if they were like, the First Order's on the rise and they've taken control of 10% of the galaxy and and no one's paying attention or something, just like letting people know like they're small but they're becoming a threat and that's why no one is really concerned about them. Versus like they almost like at some points in the movie it seems like it's like a Cold War and they were just like the Soviet Union, which they're not at all.
Definitely.
Like,
it's not unclear. For me, it's smaller stuff that I don't understand why people are griping about. Like, how did Maz get that lightsaber? Like, who cares? We don't need to hear that.
Right, exactly.
Oh yeah, who cares?
I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff as far as the politics and all that crap. I mean, that's really what killed the prequel trilogy was, sitting around watching people talk about politics in the Senate. Who cares? But
trade agreements.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, as far as where the Republic stands and where the First Order stands, that's crap that should be handled like in that scrolling narrative that happens at the beginning of the movie. That's where you should just drop that in and then go. That was the best part about this movie, was it had the pacing of the original trilogy. It kept you moving. You didn't really have to sit there and like point out all the errors that they were making while you were watching it. It just kind of worked.
Yeah, I appreciated that rather than the prequels, it was propelled by the characters. So what was their motivations, and then they sort of propel the story along, and you find out bits and pieces of the wider, universe around them.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, which is that like the second time I saw it, I had a moment during the Rey Ben fight where like I think she like throws him back or something, and she's stalking around him holding the lightsaber, and I had this like crazy lightning like, oh my god, there's a female Jedi. And I know that there are other female Jedi. I watch Rebels. I'm like aware that they're, this isn't the first time this has ever happened. But like
they have lines in the movie.
Yeah, and like seeing her on screen just like that was just like, holy crap, like this is different,
It was awesome.
Yeah, because it's a lot different than seeing like half a dozen, female Jedi show up in the arena in like episode 2 and then like a bunch of them die, and like I'm pretty sure like none of them ever speak.
Yeah, exactly. Or they have like one line, and I'm actually, I think that Padme is the only woman with lines in Revenge of the Sith. Pretty sure. Yeah.
Trying to think if that's true. That could be true.
There are like people who are trying to like argue this online that like, oh, Rey isn't that like groundbreaking or whatever. And it's like, there were all those Jedi in the other movies. All those female Jedi died in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but none of them were any good. This is like a talented one.
The Clone Wars TV show is about it. Like.
Yeah, and like I don't want to discount that or anything. It's just that like I still think
it's not the same.
Yeah, it's the
scale is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't ignore. I mean, you can because they aren't making that many toys of her. But like, it's much harder to ignore the fact
that was unsurprising but frustrating when it's like all the toy pictures started coming in and it's like all the male characters in these packs and it's like there's no Rey anywhere like in any of the combo packs. It's like, come on, little boys are okay.
The combos? Oh.
Like, yeah, there would be like these large packs where it's like all the characters from the movies, but conspicuously there's one person missing in each one of them.
It's a pack with Finn, Poe, Kylo, and then like a generic stormtrooper and a TIE pilot.
Really?
And yeah, and they actually have the same thing.
It's like one of those exclusives or something, right? Like. Yeah,
it's like for Target, and they have the same thing actually for Rebels. They have like pretty much the same thing with like Kanan and Ezra and Zeb, and then like the Inquisitor and like a stormtrooper. And also for Avengers, they completely leave out Black Widow.
Yeah, it's common.
Yeah, and like I've seen some Rey toys. Like I have a Funko, and Funko doesn't have a problem on characters. Like I've seen in my Target like a couple of, the little 3-inch or whatever it is, Reys. But like there's just so much of a difference, in the way that like you have to check, that this is happening, and like, oh right, it is like I went through a whole thing today where I'm like trying to find. There's been a ton more merchandise for women, like clothes and stuff, which has been amazing. But like for some reason, like it hasn't trickled down to little girls. There's very little Star Wars stuff for little girls out there, and like I'm trying to buy my friend's daughter, who's almost 4, a Rey T-shirt. Like she hasn't seen the movie, she doesn't give a crap, but I want to give her a Rey T-shirt. So,
Get them young.
This is like my one thing I can do. And it's very hard to find. Like I checked all these websites. Like there's like 15 options for boys and like 1 option for girls, and obviously the boys options never have female characters on them. So like it's like bizarre. Anyway, that was my rant.
It's pretty blatant.
Well,
yeah.
And like, well, I know they were even issuing like takedowns because like there's like a Rey action figure or something later on that has her with a lightsaber, and like somehow that got on sale before the movie came out, and they were like Disney was trying to get people to like not see that, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't hear about
Silly
that.
stuff.
Wow.
It's like she's on the box art, and like it's like in like what she's wearing when she goes to see Luke. It's like her final outfit in the movie or whatever. And it's like she's on the box art. She's just got the lightsaber out and everything. And people are like, wait a second.
Do you guys think she's going to turn her staff into a lightsaber? Because I do.
That'd be cool.
I hope so. I want to see her with
Staff
a
saber?
lightsaber. That'd be so awesome.
Well, like a Darth Maul weapon.
Yeah, or even just on one end. I mean, you already know how to fight with it. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like a light
Cool.
spear.
Yeah.
That actually.
It's just I don't know how well that would work. How well did that work against like other actual Jedi?
I wonder about the double-bladed lightsaber though, because I wonder how much training it takes to be able to like use that in choreography. Like, would it all have to be stunt double? Like, I think Ray Park was like the only guy who could do that effectively in the prequels. So I don't know if they'll do that way.
I think it was more just made him unique. I mean, any experienced martial artist should be able to do it, and if they give her the right training and she has enough time to work at it, she could probably pull it off. So I don't see that really being a huge problem.
She's
And she was
crazy
fine with, like,
athletic.
She had the staff she was using like a staff, like she was using both ends and everything. So it seems like she's got it down.
Cool. So is there anything else? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Not for me.
I think we were pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. It covered a lot.
It was a good discussion.
Any big hopes for the next couple movies?
I just have all the hopes. I mean, like, I hope Finn doesn't have amnesia. Like,
Oh God.
Good.
I don't think that will happen. But like
what?
leaving him unconscious, I have to like vaguely consider the possibility. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Like maybe he can't walk or something when he gets up or something weird like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super excited for like all the, I assume Jedi training stuff. I love that stuff, so I'm looking forward to everything with that. I wonder.
Montage.
Yeah. Comparative montage with Rey learning the light and Kylo learning the dark, and oof.
It's the
Rocky IV. She's like bench pressing logs. He's like running on a treadmill.
I wonder, will Luke make her carry him around? Like,
She has to chase little droids.
God, I hope so.
Like, look, this is what worked for me, so this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder no one liked your Jedi training. Like,
It actually didn't really work for Luke. Actually, I do wonder, like, I have a little theory that, like, maybe Luke was being, like, super, like, nice and whatever as a teacher when he was doing his thing with Kylo and all the others. And obviously, since that didn't work, like, we might actually see him be, like, a real, like, asshole to her.
Yeah.
In terms of training, like Yoda.
Because he's such a clean-cut kid in the originals. I just want him to be this grizzled, world-weary, broken soul. He's really harsh and, yeah.
What if he's just lost his mind out there on that rock and he's exactly like Yoda,
Yeah.
just.
what if those Force ghosts have just been berating him nonstop for 30 years and he's just got insane as they like talk to him constantly about
All the
everything?
ghosts that
Obi-Wan
follow him
and
around.
Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see this one comic that, like, she's like, I'm seeking Luke Skywalker. And he's like, Luke Skywalker, I've heard of him. Yes, yes, yes. And then, like, exchanging, like, a high five with, like, Yoda's ghost.
I don't know. I kind of hope that, like, Chewbacca... I really hope it's not, like, Rey who takes out Kylo Ren. I hope it's Chewbacca in the end. Like, from the first movie, you know, we always hear about how rookies, like, tear people's arms out of their sockets. That's really how I hope Kylo finishes off, like... You know, well, yeah, I mean, Chewbacca saw Kylo kill Han Solo,
so
yeah.
maybe in the second movie that's the thing.
Do you know what's really fucked up about that, though, is I bet Chewbacca was around when Ben was a kid. Like, he was around in his life and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
good
really
point.
makes it pretty serious.
Well, he shot him right after, too.
Yeah.
He hit him,
Took a
too.
shot
It's
at-
not.
Yeah, that's
it wasn't
why-
like a warning shot.
That's part of why he lost, you know, against Rey, because he was bleeding.
Yeah. There are a lot of people
He's sitting
complaining,
there
like, oh, this
hitting
doesn't
himself
make
in
any
the
sense.
stomach.
She's untrained. How could she beat him? For one, she's obviously stronger in the Force. And he's not that well trained. Like, we get the whole thing, like, Snoke has to finish his training. He's injured, and he's kind of disheveled and messed up after killing his dad and stuff.
Yeah, and I love this did not at all, like, register with me. I was like, why is he hitting himself? I don't get it. But I really like the idea that he's, like, he's like working backwards through, like, the Yoda thing. Like, he's causing himself pain to make himself more angry.
Well, this is actually a real thing, like hitting a wound to get your adrenaline pumping. It's actually a real
Oh, is it?
legitimate thing. Yeah.
It's interesting that he wanted to train her. Like, it registered in my mind as, like, very lonely and grasping and, like, ooh, other Jedi, or other Sith Lords, they have apprentices. I can have an apprentice. We can have adventures together. She'll look up to me. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Or he was just trying to, like, get out of that fight. Because after that, like, right then is when she starts wailing on him.
Well, he gives her the key. He says the word Force, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that thing."
Which is also a little weird because, like, if she didn't realize that she was using the Force back, I could see her not realizing she was using the Force when she, like, turns the tables on Kylo. But, like, when she gets Daniel Craig to do her bidding with the Force suggestion, like, she should know that that's the Force.
Sure. I mean, I think she knows it's the Force. I think it was specifically remembering the thing Maz said about like getting in touch with it or like, relaxing and that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Which, another line that vanished from the movie. Like, the Force is calling to you, just let it in. Like, all these things. Hope is not lost here today, it is found. Like, all of the stuff from that trailer that was really cool, completely excised from the movie. They've got to have, like, another 3 hours of stuff. This frustrates me. Not because I need every detail, because I think it could have, you know, helped the movie. I don't need every detail. I don't want every detail. Okay. One last bug that I have. Okay. Nobody apparently really gives that much of a shit that Han died.
Well, the weird thing, again, we talked about why Leia was hugging Rey, but it was weird that, like, she just, like, ignored Chewbacca and he, like, walks past Leia. Like, why was there no moment there?
Well, I liked that
That's
because
bizarre.
it was almost like Chewie didn't want to talk to her. Like, he felt like he'd failed and he was sad and he just walked past everyone who was celebrating. And, like, yeah, I like that. And then when he just goes berserk after, it was kind of like, I want to see what Chewie's, what state he's in the next movie, because,
He did have a shot of him, like, whimpering and alone in the ship.
He's like huddled down.
Yeah, he was kind of mourning on his own a little bit.
But come on, this is Han Solo. Like, there needs, you know, like, almost the next thing that happens is, like, they're back on the base and then, like, yay, they're leaving, yay, you know.
But how long has he been gone? Like, how long has he been irrelevant to them?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily that the people on the base should, but that the movie, like, went to that, you know, that there wasn't, like,
a national day of mourning.
No, or like a conversation at least, you know.
Well,
the hero of the Death Star.
I thought they got over the destruction of the Republic pretty quick. There was no warning for that. Like, just millions of people died.
Oh, pretty lights.
Maybe that was actually Leia's plan the whole time.
Yeah, maybe. No, I don't have them to hold me back.
Leia is Snoke, guys. Leia is Snoke.
That would be cool.
No, Jar Jar is Snoke.
Well, it could all be an illusion, right? I don't know.
Maybe I like it. She's super powerful in the Force. She's not letting anyone know. I like this theory. All right, cool. So thank you guys so much for for joining us, for listening. Please visit us at Vassals of Kingsgrave. Nope. Yeah, vassalsofkingsgrave.wordpress.com. Yes. VOK Podcast?
VOK Podcast.
VOK Podcast.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. VOK Podcast .wordpress.com. You can find our forums at podcast /forums, and we're down at the bottom under Vassals of Kingsgrave. We have a Twitter that happens sometimes. We have a Facebook page. We have all those ways to find us. And yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully we will talk again. You know, we have Rogue One coming out. That's fun, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny because like before this movie, I was like, Rogue One, that'll be cool. Like we'll have Star Wars in between. Now I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like I don't. Go away. Give me Poe and Rey and Finn. Like,
So, do we have a new Star Wars coming out every year for the next 3 years?
yes,
At
That's
least.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think the next 4 years.
Yeah, I thought it was done. Like I was never seeing another Star Wars movie. It's so cool.
Yeah. Cool. And farewell. May the Force be with you.